All right, I think we're live. Mic check 1 2 1 2. Mic check 1 2 1 2. If anyone in the chat can hear me, just push 1. All right, got a confirmation from the chat. Thank you for the confirmation. Welcome back to the Black Brain Trust. This is episode 495, Black Tech Talk. Please hit the like button as you come in, share the video if possible. Hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust, including those posted on the community tab. No docket today. This is more of a Q&A engagement. If you want to engage in a discussion, there'll be a link in the chat for you to click on. When you click on the link, make sure you raise your hand so that one of us can acknowledge you and advance you to the panel. Just give me a few minutes. Let me try to find the link.
Pay homage, respect. 1 2. Acknowledge the rap. I don't know what you cats was thinking. Pay homage, respect. Must have been crazy. I'll step up on stage at CMJ. Mention my name. I hear these cats, but I ain't listening. A little faint dissing, a little scratch, a little paint missing. But I still gleam and glisten, hot like a stream of pissing. I'm about to have your whole team wishing that you never got this shit started. You about to be dearly departed. You gotta be nearly retarded to let me hear my name mentioned. Trying to gain attention. Now I'm running through this game lynching. And I heard a few cats trying to take shots on the low. These XFL rappers trying to fuck with a real pro. One thing, who named y'all the high and the mighty? To me, y'all just sound like a couple of high whiteys. You had to be on mad coke and ecstasy to think for a second you could stand next to me. Look, don't ever again mention my name in your freestyles, or I cut off your transmission faster than Lee Miles. And I heard your album. This must be something you knew at, cause I'd rather hear a Lil Wayne, Lil Zane duet. My cell phone stay ringing like a slap in the ear. So I hope y'all don't plan on making rap a career. Cause ever since Head wasn't burning, I've been burning. Next year, y'all be up at Raucous, interning. And I should've let it known what your government names are, to make sure you take it personal like Gangstar, motherfuckers. Yeah. And I go for any of you other so-called rap cats in the game. And believe me, I ain't forget about him. Nah. Nope. Just you wait. Yo, yeah, I heard of the boogeyman when I was a youth. Scary. Then I found out that he was as fake as a tooth fairy. Since my last mission, this nigga been ass kissing. I took a minute. I gave you a single a fast listen. Tell me this, and no pot to pissin', how you dissing? Your group home's about to be reporting you missing. And now I don't know what was worse, the track or the verse. I'ma get to your producer, but I'm smacking you first. See, I couldn't even find one nigga that heard of you. I did find a few cats that wanted to murder you, but I told them chill. I let them know you was my son, and I promise I can pay and support to you 21. Consider me the clothes on your back and a warm meal. Who knows, this just might get you a deal. And the day your album go on sale for the first hour, just remember like Nas, nigga, I gave you power. I figured I'd give you some some help, cause you need lots. I make your producer change his name to Speed Knots. Tell him I said fuck him for doing the tracks. Matter of fact, fuck Fat Beats for doing the wax. I'ma dish you via email and then through a fax. I'ma dish you by two-way, I ain't gonna never relax. I'ma dish you over fast, slow track or no track. If your shit wasn't so whack, I dish you to your track. You that little fish that I catch and I throw back. And by the way, get 50 cents his flow back. You that cat in the club, you get hit with a bottle. Fucking with me, you better off trying to hit lotto. And don't answer back, this is hard shit to follow. And you can't spit, nigga, so you obviously must swallow, motherfucker. Pay homage, respect. Yeah. Booger man. Booger man, what's wrong? I figure out of everybody, you know better. Man, you sound like a fan and everything. I mean, you know you was dancing, singing my shit back in the day. Try to front on me. You should know the student can't fuck with the teacher. I tell you what, after this Fat Beat shit dry up for you, and all this hype I gave you way off. Come see me, I'll make you my hype man. Work on some steps, cause I'm gonna make you my dancer too. And as far as battling goes, come on man, I can't earn no stripes battling you. Tell you what, get at me after you sell like one record, and I'll break that ass, nigga. Ever front on me, nigga.
All right, let's get started, man. Let's start advancing people to the panel. Link is in the chat if you want to engage in the discussion. You have your questions and whatnot. We will answer all of those today.
One of the most epic response diss tracks. You never heard from Boogeyman again after that one.
Yeah, I think you got deported.
Yeah, dearly departed, more like.
Yeah. So today's discussion is about IT recruiters, IT hiring managers, and job search chat. So the question that people have been having, during this Corona recession has been what to do with these IT recruiters and what do IT hiring managers look for, and what can they do to get a remote job. I know Hard Fork Richard Victor Dixon has been pretty adamant about this with engineering candidates. What can you do in the Corona recession, remote work and stuff like that. And to answer that initial question, remote work is usually a trusted role. So most companies won't allow you to work remotely unless you have some past experience or you've been trusted enough. So that means that you showed up in person and they have met you. So I used to do cybersecurity remotely, but one of the things that allowed me to be remote was because, one, I was only a few hours away from New York. And number two, I had the experience of working, in the field, working remote, working in the office. That's been my experience of multilateral, variants of workplace assignments. And so working remote is very tricky. You gotta have some form of trust factor between you and the hiring manager. Usually if it's maternity leave, one of the guys I used to work with before, his wife was pregnant. And so he could not see himself being in the office and his wife was in North Carolina. It just wouldn't work. And so he constantly, when his wife was like, I think when she reached 7 months, that was it. That was a cutoff for him. He was not coming back into the office. And so he was able to work remotely. And then even soon after she had given birth, it wasn't until another 7 months that he actually came back into the office. So the ability to work remotely is really dependent upon your relationship with the hiring manager, relationship with the company, how sensitive, the data and information it is that you're handling. A lot of technical operations, help desk people, depending on what kind of level of sensitivity of the data or the information that is that they're handling, they may not be able to work remotely, even though they probably could. Company doesn't want them working remotely because they don't want that data being exposed outside of that contained environment, which is the technical operations center. So, in my opinion, it's best to get some weight under your belt first, until you can actually, start asking about working remote. Help desk jobs are usually not remote; they're usually in office because they're usually local. I know that there's a lot of companies that use, India for help desk and stuff like that. But even though that seems remote, that's actually in a containerized environment too. So you're not actually, these foreign workers are not working from home themselves. They're actually inside of a security operations center or a technical operations center. A TOC is what we call it, a TOC. So, to answer that question, that's the best I can give you. I don't know too many companies that are very fond of letting people work remotely anymore, beyond the coronavirus pandemic. So can you find some work like that? Possibly. They would, I'm not seeing too many help desks or desktop support roles where you can work remotely unless you're a field tech. Field techs typically kind of work away from the office, and so they always work from within their car. They have a laptop and some tools in the back, and they kind of just roam around. Usually they usually do about 2 or 3 tickets a day at best, including mileage and whatnot. So for travel, so that's the best I can give you. I think guys should actually get some more experience under their belt before they start talking about going remote, because that's very risky. Because if anything is mishandled on your end, even now, we had a conversation earlier this week about people not turning on their camera because people's houses are a mess. They don't want they don't want that stuff showing up on the screen, and they don't want no screaming kids in the background either. So a lot of that plays a factor into remote work.
I had to do an office visual inspection, prior to me getting set up, because that's what I'm doing now, working from home. So it's like, internet speed test and, just verifying that the workspace that you're going to be working in is suitable. Because they want to reproduce results that you would get in the office environment. Right. So one way to do that is to try to have something as close to an actual office environment that you're working out of at home. So because if you're like at the kitchen table, for example, or you're just sitting on the couch, with the TV on in front of you and stuff like that, that's not your focus is kind of in different places, right? When you're in an office environment, you tend to function as if you're in one. So, they look for these types of intangibles, because what they want is they want the same type of results that they would get if you were in an actual office environment.
I'm sorry for chewing your ear. Yeah. So one last thing on remote work is that make sure you get yourself a Kensington lock or a Target's lock, or what we call a DEFCON lock. This is going to lock the PC to whatever sort of stationary furniture that you have so that it can't be stolen. There have been cases of people having their homes broken into and by people who wanted electronics so that they can actually pass off. And you don't want that device it just out of random, somebody walked away with it. It happens all the time. There's videos on YouTube of people having their homes broken into via the Ring doorbell, and people just showing up and kicking the door in and stuff like that, and they grab all the electronics out of it, including the work laptop. That happens. I was at an event, or we were having a corporate event at at some kind of hosting place, and people left their laptops in their bags, in their cars, exposed. For whatever reason, bad guy came by. He looked inside in that parking lot. There were people in there drinking for Christmas dinner or Christmas party, whatever it was. And they did not acknowledge that they left these items, these devices exposed. Bad guy came with some broken porcelain from a spark plug and popped every single window undetected, went in there, snatched those bags, and was gone. You lost $35,000 on laptops in one night.
Run your laptops.
Yeah, that's a big problem. Brand new laptops, brand new Apple MacBooks. So that's what happens.
Run all that equipment, homie. Yeah, he got them.
Yeah, so that's the type of things they worry about.
You know, Mike, and then, you know, and I don't want to really jump too much, but I think that just something else that I think is relatable to this is using like a tethered connection, running like, you know, if you have like you can run Ethernet to your modem or your router as opposed to using Wi-Fi, you know, and, you know, utilizing things like a VPN. Or typically, though, if you're working remotely for somebody, you're going to be probably more than likely logging in through a VPN of some sort. But just protective measures, because you would be also dealing with private data, you know, stuff like that. You know, these are just the type of remote work environment things that are more than likely going to be a requirement.
Yeah. But the thing is, laptops, for desktops, that's fine. If they give you a desktop, very rarely does a corporation give you a desktop. But if
they give you like a display type or a laptop.
Yeah, it's called an all-in-one. Yeah, but but your laptop won't have an Ethernet port because it's usually a ultra portable. The laptops that we have, you know, Microsoft Surface, you know, some of these really thin portables, ultra thin portables, they don't have Ethernet ports, so you have no choice but to use a Wi-Fi connection. In this case,
don't they have like USB-C, or because I know like with the MacBooks, for example, right? You can run like a Lightning or a Thunderbolt to an Ethernet adapter, and that's you tether it that way. Well, at least on those. But they don't, like a lot of those other ones, they don't have a USB-C or some other type of port.
They do have a USB-C port. The problem is the port goes to sleep. Your network connection. So that's
it drops. Yeah, it drops.
Yeah, it drops the connection. So you're constantly dropping the connection. If you keep dropping the connection with VPN, then what happens here is that the VPN is constantly trying to make a request to reconnect.
Right.
From a security standpoint, those alerts start showing up that somebody's trying to get into the VPN.
Kind of keep access and Yep.
Looks like a brute force attempt when it's really not. And so that's the skinny on that question that Hard Fork Rich and Engineering Cannabis had. All right, we can move forward with, you know, the question about IT recruiters. Here's the big deal. A lot of people are really apprehensive about dealing with IT recruiters. And the apprehensive nature of it is that, well, can we trust IT recruiters? You know, these guys are just money grabbers, you know, they just like to scam and things like that. Their job as an IT recruiter is to become the intermediary between the hiring manager of that company and the resource that they're trying to pick up, you know, the human resource. Their best interest is to hire you or get you hired anyways, because they don't get paid unless you get paid. So what role or what apprehension that you may have, or some people may have about IT recruiters, can become a misnomer. Everybody's competing for the same role. You know, you could have 24 IT recruiting firms that are trying to place somebody for the same exact role. So they're always looking for the best candidate. And they can't send a bad candidate to an interview because that plays a role on their credibility as well. So the role of the IT recruiter is just basically a broker. That person is a broker to the company that is looking for the resource. And the way how I see it is that you got to leverage IT recruiters to your best advantage because it works in your best interest. Even if you're not qualified, yeah, thanks. Even if you're not qualified for the role, and you can find somebody, and you know somebody else that's qualified for the role, there's also a finder's fee, right? Usually about $250 to $500 if you can find the right person, if you know the right person. So IT recruiter's role is always going to be an intermediary, a very broker-ish type of, sort of position that they're in. I know some of them sound like used car salesmen. They suck. And that's probably because they were used car salesmen at one point. But if you find the right one, you want to build a rapport with the IT recruiter, because even if you're not qualified for this role, or maybe even if they don't have a role right now, you don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 or 10 days. They may end up having something come across their desk hot off the presses, and they need to fill that role within 48 to 72 hours. Sometimes it's like that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, man, you have to kind of approach recruiters like, okay, they work for you. Yeah, I think that's kind of maybe the mindset you'd have to adopt. So you want to actually be very, you want to maybe be a bit more, judicious about the recruiters that you, that you incorporate.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to suss out who's I guess, like, who's good, basically, people who are not necessarily in constant contact with you, but always have, jobs that are in your realm. And then you establish relationships with them. Because like what Mike said, it's in their best interest to get you hired. Usually recruiters are usually on some sort of base plus commission, or they may be on full commission, or it may be, there's a lot of arrangements, like particularly on the back end, that are lucrative for them. See, so the more people that they can place, the more money they make. And so the more viable a candidate you are, the more the likelihood they can put you in a position, to get a face-to-face interview, or to get into positions, right? They can make you become an asset to them. So it's all in how you look at the IT recruiter candidate relationship.
Yeah, definitely. And so you want to leverage that IT recruiter to your best advantage. I still talk to recruiters from 5 or 6 years ago. I actually have one who takes me to the Celtics games and brings me courtside because they have tickets. And because I'm a Celtics fan, they're a Celtics fan, he's a Celtics fan. We vibe, we rock out, man. Even though he has no work for me, I'm already working. It's just a matter of having that good rapport. So,
dude, as soon as something comes up, you're the first person in mind.
Absolutely. He picks my brain when he wants to know something, like what's emerging right now, what's trending from a IT standpoint, and then he can kind of jot that down in his notes, and he says, okay, I understand how this works now. I understand how DevOps works now. I have a better perspective of where cybersecurity is going from an AI perspective. It's just about having good person-to-person, people-to-people relationships. And I think what happens in the Black community, or at least in terms of Black men specifically, is that they don't have the network. They don't have the networks available to leverage so that they can get inside of some of these lucrative roles.
Well, I was going to say, and a lot of that is predicated on soft skills.
Well, not just soft skills, but because before you can get to the soft skills, you don't have if you're network poor, you're just network poor. Doesn't matter if you have soft skills.
Because you're not leveraging like LinkedIn and other tools.
Yeah, you don't know anybody on the inside. You're not connected with anybody. You gotta
Yeah, you got to leverage the soft skills when you're in.
Yeah, that comes later.
Yeah,
that comes later. Usually, when you go through school or any sort of program, they kind of groom you for these type of things. And so, the IT recruiter role is actually a very good one. Contract roles pay very good because they don't pay benefits. Okay, it's not uncommon that a desktop support person could be bringing in 60, 70 grand a year. I've seen it. Okay, seeing a desktop person bringing in 75K a year, not uncommon. At least up north, it's not uncommon. So, but their contract, they don't have any vacation, they don't have any quality healthcare coverage. By law, companies have to offer some form of coverage within 31 days of hire. So W-2. So an IT recruiter can get you a very lucrative role, but you gotta be able to tolerate the fact that you're not gonna have any vacation. You may be out there working on bird scooters and all summer long in blazing heat, but if the
7 days a week, dude, 7 days, bro.
Yeah.
I was at it 7 days a week.
Yeah, if the pay is good and the opportunity is a once in a lifetime opportunity, you got to be able to swallow your pride and actually go for that. That's the part of the game. You want to monkey branch your way around, having that on your resume. Hey, I worked on, major startup, emerging startup with a $2 billion market valuation cap. Emerging micro transportation, hands-on skills, things like that. Somebody
and out of that, I even have my own proof of concept out of that. Yeah, there's a whole lot to leverage out of that.
Somebody like Tesla, somebody like SpaceX may come across that resume from a recruiter standpoint, and they kind of cross-reference and say, this person used to work at such and such startup. We're a startup. We're looking to add somebody on possibly in the next month or so. Let's interview this guy. Let's get this guy a call. Hey, what'd you do? How was it working over there? Oh, this is what I did. I worked on this. I kind of, managed, self-managed, in the field. Pretty autonomous. I'm pretty good working alone. I can read schematics and so on and so forth. Oh, cool. Well, we'll give you a call back. You should check your email in the next week or so. We'll probably, reconvene then. We'll let you know. Before you know it, 7 days later, there's an offer on the table.
Or they want a phone interview 2 days later, 7 days later is an offer.
It depends on what the demand is. If they need somebody right away,
yeah,
one interview is all it's going to take. If you can sell them, that IT recruiter, that tech recruiter, they're pretty good at screening people. They can, if you speak with conviction, that's what sells. That's what sells. If I'm a desktop support person, I have my A+, I have my Network Plus. I don't need to go into what is, port 443. I don't have to have that conversation. Now the conversation is about what do I want from a future role, and what am I looking to get myself into? What's trending in the market? They want to pick your brain to see if you're really a tech person or if you're just here for the money. Because the money is going to come one way or the other. Recruiters need to get paid because they get paid based on placement. If they don't place anybody, they don't get paid. And so the question about the role of the IT recruiter or the tech recruiter, that's their role. Now it's getting to the point where it's not just about desktop support anymore. You got IoT, you got microtransportation, you got autonomous vehicles, you got all types of variations of emerging tech coming out of the fourth industrialization that you have to be prepared for. Reading a lot of these articles and stuff like that is going to actually help you have a different conversation than the next candidate that you're competing for, you're competing with for that role. And so that's really the benefits of an IT recruiter or a tech recruiter from these recruitment firms. I never just work with one recruiter. I have probably a half a dozen that I can contact right now, right off the top of my Rolodex. And more than likely, they have a role that's probably going to start in the next 6 weeks. So it's just a matter of me, prepping up. One recruiter doesn't have anything right now, I go to the next recruiter and so on and so forth. I hit all 6 of them up within an hour. I can almost guarantee you by the end of the day, end of the business day, somebody's going to hit me back and saying, hey, I got this. What do you think about this?
Yep.
What do you think about this? I tell them what my floor is from a wage standpoint. When can I start? Background check, etc. And we're done. It's just a matter of them get me on the horn with their
hiring manager.
And this is where the hiring manager comes in. So what are hiring managers looking for? Hiring managers want that jack of all trades, spade of none, so to speak. Okay, you can do this. You can work on desktops. Cool. You got your A+. Cool. Now what? I went to vocational school for computer electronics, so I can solder. I can work with breadboards, motors, actuators, and so on and so forth. Build traffic lights and traffic management systems and stuff like that, just off of a breadboard. I understand, Ohm's law and so on and so forth. I haven't used it in quite some time, but I understand it. I have a literacy of it. I can work with oscilloscopes. I can work with multimeters, so on and so forth. Those sort of areas are meaningful when it comes to competing for that, that role that's on the table. And that's what IT hiring managers are looking for. How diverse is your background?
Mike, so a perfect example of what you're talking about is a guy that I follow, and I'm just about to go grab some lunch real quick. There's a guy that I follow by the name of Louis Rossman. And I highly suggest anybody who's listening to this, if you guys aren't already subscribed to him, look him up. It's Louis Rossman. And what this dude does is he's an advocate for people to have free access to repair devices that they've purchased, right? Because a lot of times there's devices that have stipulations on like self-repair and how it's going to void the warranty, or their ability to get replacement parts for something that they've purchased and owned. So he's a big advocate first and foremost. So he's a really interesting dude. He's a real Brooklyn cat, and he has a shop, and he repairs Macs. And so what this dude does is he literally repairs. He'll have a camera on the repairs. He brings up the schematics on the screen, and he explains to you how he traces, how he repairs the boards, soldering, what Mike was just saying. So having the ability to not only address software issues, but then be able to also repair boards, place new chips, replace like liquid damage, corrosion damage, all that type of stuff. What? Man, that's that jack of all trades that Mike's talking about.
What?
We got Mike Shinnery on the panel. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, fellas?
Hey, Mike, what's going on, G?
Yeah, man. Hey, this is a great topic once again, and I just wanted to jump in on what you guys were saying when, like, with dealing with the recruiters and whatnot. Make sure, like, for those people that do get into IT, like myself, when you're entry level, when you're first starting out, as you learn new skills and whatnot, update your resumes or your applications to make sure that you're adding in there your newly gained skills. because that could be the difference. You know what I'm saying? Like, whether people even look at you or not. Now that I'm what, 4 years in, I'm getting hit up on Indeed and LinkedIn. You know, I'm getting all kinds of applications, not applications, but like emails and whatnot from recruiters, and they're hitting hard now. You know, my Gmail is filled with like at least five or six a day, and it's not all the same people.
No, there's a high demand for desktop support right now, and I've talked about this many times before. Companies need to get off of Windows 7 and they can't. They need to get off of Windows 8 and they can't. Not enough hands. And they're paying big bucks for it now because they're in a pinch.
Yep.
Big companies like Boeing, big companies like American Airlines, Delta, JetBlue, they're trying to get their systems updated. They don't have enough hands. Those contracts are out there. They pay big bucks.
Yeah, like the school district I'm working with right now, they were working on an old school model, and they come to find out now with how fast technology is moving, they need to add more sysadmins, and get more people on the server admin side, because we have them separated. They're part of the same team, but they're separated, the server guys, because it's a large school district. We got like 89 schools and what is it, like 17 or 18 other departments.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 55,000 personnel network. So they're figuring out now that they don't have enough people in the right position. So now they're scrambling, and we're doing I'm the help desk side. We're doing the work of sysadmins and whatnot from home. And
Yeah.
and they're learning that a few of us actually have this, the skills, or I don't want to say more skill because those guys have been doing it longer, but I guess we're on par with what's needed by the district. So they're gonna be revamping.
Yeah, I'm about to say they're gonna be reassessing some things.
Yep, and
It all depends on their budget.
Right, and not just that, but with what's happening right now. With this whole Corona thing, I would say people want to be on their P's and Q's when they do go back to work, because I'm seeing businesses are now learning who they can work without, who they no longer need, and this is going to be.
We covered this whole sort of this employment shakeout as a result of all this, man. It's going to be like some massive streamlining going on, man.
Oh yeah. But yeah, so people should need to keep their information up to date, especially if you're looking for a recruiter, looking for higher positions, and every time you learn something or whatever, add that onto that resume or your paperwork, so that it just makes you look that much better.
Now, in order to get into the school district, did you have to go through a third-party recruiter or a recruiting firm?
No, I was working. This is when I was working with Dell. I was actually doing the warranty fixes for the schools. Well, not for the schools, but like I was doing the Dell warranty fixes, and I did a lot of the schools. So I met a lot of the field techs, and just off of personality and whatnot, they were, I had a few of them tell me, hey, you know what, you'd be really good over, if you go work at the help desk and stuff, because I knew what they were doing when I would go there. Like, they'd be like imaging computers, or they would tell me the problems that they're having with some of the computers and whatnot. And so I was able to conversate with them about the problem they were having while I'm, replacing motherboards and hard drives and whatnot. And so they told me to go apply. And then one of the lead techs at one of the schools that I was at, she actually put in a good word for me to the manager of the help desk. And so when I applied, they called me back, and I did the interview and all that, and they liked my personality in the interview and stuff. And how you can tell because the way that they smile and whatnot when they're talking to you. It's not that fake, like, hello, nice to meet you smile, but it's like, oh yeah, hey, this is, they're treating me like we've known each other for a long time. So it was just I was able to pretty much walk into it, just based off of I had the relationship already with the field techs beforehand.
Well, you do have that B1 smile.
B1. I I hang out over there, but I don't know if you guys were aware. My wifey is white, so I'm not.
We don't need to get into all that, man. No, it was just a tongue in cheek. Yeah, IT hiring managers, man, like Complex was saying, they look for diversity in someone's background. Even speaking a second language can help. Depending on what kind of environment it is, speaking a second language can actually be a grab for for you. If you speak Spanish or you speak Portuguese or something like that, especially if you can speak Mandarin or Cantonese, very, very, very much a highly sought after person.
Yeah, I was gonna say now it's increasingly becoming if you can speak like some form of Chinese, like Mandarin or Cantonese, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, so IT hiring managers work with the IT recruiters for that reason. They don't have the bandwidth to actually go out and start searching for human resources like that. HR, IT recruiters, they all work together in order to find the best candidate possible. You got to put yourself in a position where you can be the best candidate possible. So I tell guys, start up, get the A plus, get the network plus, get your your CCNA if you can, get your Microsoft Azure cert. These things matter now more so than it did last year. This coronavirus is testing every organization's infrastructure on can they handle all these people working remote, and they're starting to see that they can. They have to scale up. And now in Amazon Web Services, they're finding out that Microsoft is running out of capacity on Azure. Saw that early this week. They're switching to AMD processors now. Same thing with VPN connectivity. There's Cisco ASA firewalls and so on and so forth. They haven't really tested it with that many connections coming in at a time. Load balancing, all of that stuff matters. All of that stuff matters. No one really thought a pandemic like this would actually take place and put this much stress on a network. Even your home routers and stuff like that. Help desk is jumping off the hook right now because all these people working from home, they never worked from home before, and they're starting to see, how do I connect this laptop or desktop to my network and connect back into the office? How does this work? Nobody knows in that area. Nobody knows. They don't even know what their Wi-Fi password is. It's probably written on the bottom of their router or something like that. They don't know. That's why help desk is overwhelmed. You heard Mike Shinnery just say it. He's doing sysadmin work. From a help desk perspective, he's being bogged down with responsibilities that probably shouldn't even be his. Not enough bandwidth. IT hiring managers are saying, "Hey, what else can you do? Yeah, you got your A plus and whatnot, but what else can you do? Can you write in PowerShell? Do you know Linux? Do you know what Linux even is? Do you understand Bash? Do you understand ITIL processes, change management, incident management? These things matter. That's what IT hiring managers are looking for. So that's why you look at a role come in on Indeed or something like that, you'll start to see that they're like, must have A plus, must have this, must have that. Yeah, IT hiring managers are very demanding on what they want, because they need to filter out from the jump all these candidates. Imagine if 100 people applied, how do you filter it out? IT recruiters are the ones who sift a lot of these people out. Okay, they narrow it down from 100 down to 50. Okay, so now how do you narrow it down again? Must have A+, must have network plus. Do they really need it? Not really. But in order to filter this out, this is the best way possible. Do you, do you have that certification or not? Did you go out and get the certification? These are, these are questions IT recruiters are going to have that the IT hiring manager is expecting an answer for. They don't want to be sent a resume that's all sloppy, used to work at Kroger or used to work at Piggly Wiggly, stocking shelves. They don't want to see all that. They want a clean resume that says, I graduated from this program. Doesn't necessarily have to be a bachelor's, doesn't necessarily have to be an associate's. You could have went to a vocational school, got your certificate, got your A+. What else? Oh, by the way, I can solder too. And what do I do for hobbies? Oh, I like to sit on live streams and call myself the everyday brother, the voice of the everyday brother. No, that's not good enough.
Hilarious.
Yeah. I sit around and I talk about UBI and how disgusting it is to my dignity. Not good enough. Not good enough. So what are the flexibilities that IT hiring managers want? They want that hard skill, they want the soft skills. Can I tear down this big multi-functional printer that takes 2 people to move about? Can I tear it down and figure out whether or not these logic boards are bad? Can I change out a scanner? Can I change out the fuser in the maintenance kits? That helps companies save bundles of money because they don't have to rely on third party. Can I figure out a way to make this multifunctional printer pipe in its alerts into ServiceNow or Remedy so that it can cut a ticket every single time the toner runs low or it has a jam? Because help desk people work off of incidents. They have to work off of volume. If there's nothing going on, then they think that help desk is sitting around doing nothing. In reality, that's not true. They could be trying to resolve something. But that's what IT hiring managers are looking for, that sort of depth. What's the most challenging thing that you've gone through, Mike Shinnery?
Say that again?
What's the most challenging problem that you've gone through?
Right now, so the schools are trying to do the remote teaching, so the teachers don't know how to use Zoom or how to VPN into the network. They're not technically skilled whatsoever. So trying to teach somebody that I can't remote into their computer. Mm-hmm. So we're going based off of just knowledge. Just you got to know it off the top of your head, and that's where those certs come in. You got to really be able to walk them through step by step, getting connected, what's on their screen. You got to be able to, I guess, talking to them, getting them to tell you exactly what's going on. But yeah, so right now that's our thing is getting the teachers, once they're off the network, can they be productive? Mm-hmm. And it's, we've moved a lot of our I guess our teaching apps and programs and stuff. They've got started an online, a lot of online programs, and so now we have to walk the teachers through using those programs. How to create a Zoom meeting. Like that's one of the biggest things right now. I think I did probably 100 work orders yesterday on just Zoom.
Yeah, and see, Mike Shinnery's gonna have to write that up in a document and make that available on the SharePoint site, so that's easily available to everyone else. That's a part of the process. He has to document all this type of stuff so that it's he doesn't have to do the same repetitive task. Everybody understands the task. They can look it up on his SharePoint site, and he has all the screenshots and stuff set up, all the instructions properly set up.
It's funny you said that, because that's literally what we did. Me and one of the other guys, because we use Discord. We have a live Discord thing going between me and the other help desk guys going. So we're talking to each other all day. So we're in touch with each other. And as we're doing calls and answering work orders, what we did was we wrote up an A to Z little document, like a blurb that we can respond to those people in emails, because we're getting hundreds of work orders coming in now, because it's all the teachers. And so we wrote up a little blurb, like a little document that we can email to them with step-by-step directions on how to set up a meeting, and how to start a meeting, how to invite people, the whole works. And we just threw it out there. So now we can send that to all those new work orders that we get with Zoom. Because I know on Monday, once this the school thing, because they're still handing out laptops for my school district.
Yep, we had the same issue here. Boston Public Schools giving out 20,000 Chromebooks.
Yep.
Hey, same thing here, man. All 3rd through 8th graders in my daughter's school district, Chromebooks.
Yep.
So I can blame you guys for why now I'm having to go get those streams, right? They ran out of Chromebooks, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of people thought, oh, well, I know Windows. Well, guess what? Do you know Chrome?
Yep.
Yeah, Chrome is not just a browser, it's an operating system now.
Yes, sir.
It sits on top of Linux.
Chrome OS.
Yeah, I got this off.
Yeah. Career Heights in the chat says most of these help desk technicians need to be taught some soft skills. Most have zero patience, very easily annoyed. He's calling you out there, Mike.
That's where it benefited me, having those soft skills out. I was a barber and a plumber before I got into IT. I've worked all those other jobs. Like I said, I'm 42 now, so I've already dealt with people. I know how to handle these situations as they come in. At the end of the day, I work for the person with the problem. So that's the way I see it.
Well, it's interesting, Mike, that you say that, because we're the same age, dude. I'm 40. I'll be 43 this year. And, I've worked in so many different environments, right? That, you start to find that there's like a commonality in terms of like just dealing with people.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think that really is just an experience factor, bro. I got to be real with you, because like you said, there's been different, like they're not even, like you said, do barber and plumbing.
Yeah, in the military.
And then IT, dude, like, do you see how broad that is? So there's so much that you could take away, because you've been in so many different environments, people who have different types of problems and different needs, and like I said, that you have to attribute that to experience, man, and that's really where a lot of people do have to try to maximize on all of the different work environments that they've been in. There's some value in that. There's some value in having different work experience in different environments. There's value in that.
Yeah, when the toilet gets clogged in school, the ticket gets cut to Mike.
There he is.
I don't think Mike like that.
No, hey, like I said, hey, if there's no work orders, there's no need for us, right? So as long as they got work for us to do, I'm there for it, man.
Let's go to Johnny Blaze. He has his hand up.
Hey, peace, guys. What's going on?
What's going on, man?
Hey, not too much. No, I'm just chiming in on the thing where you're sitting in with the teachers, because my university, we're in this situation. But I had a unique situation last week. I was given an online test, and I'm using a third-party software. And how this thing is designed, normally I give this test at school because I got to put in the IP addresses for the computers that they use. Now, of course, since I'm not at the school, I have to get the IP addresses for every single student from their home PCs. That part was not a problem. I just had to show them how to find the IP address. But the issue came up was that the Chromebooks and the iPads wouldn't work because they couldn't download the software.
Yep. With the Chromebooks, you can actually download Citrix Receiver.
Now, okay, and I didn't even think about doing that because you know we're so used to when they go to the website will download a file. They click on it, it runs, and it activates.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
The only problem that we ran into is all the laptops require admin
Yeah.
permissions in order to install anything. That's one of the things that we're seeing now. So all the new stuff that we're handing out, they're going to make it so those people can VPN in, and then I'll be able to remote into their computer if any new installations need to be done. And then they're going to make the teachers that already have laptops come back to the schools once, I don't know how they're going to do it. Once they hand out all the laptops, I think they're going to have the teachers come back so that they can all get VPN access and all that.
Well, what you can do, because you don't have to necessarily wait for them to or wait for the admin privileges to take place, the admin escalation to elevation to take place. You can push that. I don't know what you use for application deployment, but in Windows Server, or for the domain from the domain controller, you can push those apps down through SCCM, and then they will automatically install when you schedule it. So the next reboot or the next 5:00 p.m. when the person's not, using the machine, the application will automatically install.
Right. Yeah. That's what we do. But I'm just saying for right now, because none of the teachers are actually in the district. They're at home working from home. So, now they're making them go back, sit in the parking lot where they can connect to the Wi-Fi, and then we can push stuff out. So it's a mess telling people, we're going back and forth. Like, okay, I can't do this. Oh, okay, we need to get your laptop back in the network. So you need to drive over there and do that in order for them to download some of the products. Or
Who deployed it?
Say again?
Who deployed it?
Yeah, who's deploying this?
Yeah, we have two guys that are on our desktop management team. Like I said, they need more people back there because they're still basing all their moves off of 2003. So they're doing SCCM and Intune.
Yep.
And that's how they push stuff out. They're trying to move everything now to Azure. But like I said, the new laptops are going to be on Azure, and we'll be able to use the Windows 10. Windows 10 has the ability to, I can remote from my home to that computer, no problem.
Yep.
But the ones that we already have are already configured a different way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not available on those, and they're not all the way up to date.
So basically, the upgrade didn't happen when it should have.
Right.
Now
Exactly.
we're in a situation where we have to update while we adjust to the very thing we needed to update for.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So you're building the airplane while you're flying it.
Yes, there you
Yep.
go. Very good analogy. Very good analogy.
Exactly.
Oh,
And that's why I said they need more people back there.
All right, I want to throw a situation out at you guys. Okay, so and this kind of goes into what you're talking about with the whole deployment. So, what would you say if I told you a college professor did not have internet at home?
A college professor that did not have internet at home?
Yeah,
That is correct.
you have some
Right.
of those. You have some of those types that don't believe in like the internet like that.
Correct. So
Right.
now, based upon what Mike Sherman just said, they got to come back to the school and sit in the parking lot and use the Wi-Fi. Well, lo and behold, our network crashed. We lost all connectivity in the building.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I have no idea what that instructor is going to do.
Well, they can give them a hotspot, you know, from Verizon or
Yeah,
or
the
AT&T.
Khajiits.
They have a flip phone.
A flip phone.
They have a African feature phone, Mike.
What is this thing you're talking about?
they have a feature phone. Yeah.
What for?
I have no idea. Once again, this person does not believe in it, doesn't like to use the internet, doesn't want any of this stuff
Dude,
in
this
their
guy,
home.
the professor's a Luddite, yo.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, it's not that he's a Luddite. They're trying to get away from any responsibilities. You know, they
Yeah,
don't want to take their work home with them. That's all it's coming down to. I don't know how to work an iPhone. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
I've seen those people many times. We call them snowflakes. But the thing is, you can get a hotspot from AT&T or Verizon with about 2,000, 3,000 meg cap on it. And that should be more than enough, you know, to do, for connectivity purposes. Well, I want to get to Cyberline's question. Says that might be, can you connect user whose device is on another subdomain in the company to the printer on the primary domain? Yeah, you can use a jump server for that. You can use a jump server for that. So you can create a Linux box that would actually use it as a jump server so that they can connect over that way. You would have to set the printer up to be in a proxy so that it can receive that connection from the jump server itself. So that's the way you would go about doing it.
Yeah, or I mean, we just VPN into the network that it's on, and then that way they can just type in the IP of the printer, connect it, and go to work. That's how we're doing it in the school district.
We have Vivian on the panel as well. Vivian, have anything you want to add?
Welcome.
How you doing?
Vivian is away right now. Let's go to Cyberline with his hand up.
Hey, everybody. Good afternoon.
What's going on, bro?
Hey, no, that question was basically when you were asking those questions. that question was kind of following your question, Lee, when you were saying some of the things that the IT managers or those of us who would be requesting some of the tech guys in terms of what they could do. I've seen a lot of the desktop guys come in where we have a user in one company that might be an umbrella, and you may have two separate federated domains underneath one domain, and a lot of problems that we had with those guys that says, oh, well, the users on another domain, I can't connect them to our printer that's on our primary domain. So that was just really a question that we would ask, can you do that? Can you connect a user who's on the secondary or sister domain device to the printer that's in the the primary domain? That was that. The other thing is that I was listening to the gentleman when he was saying they had to have a lot of those teachers come back. My suggestion was, why not just turn on or enable your PowerShell remoting capabilities on computers? But I do know a lot of companies disable PowerShell remoting. I recommended numerous times that's not a good idea. That PowerShell remoting does a lot of the heavy lifting. Granted that your VPN client, your VPN infrastructure, if you're using, it just depends on what you're using. You have ports open where you can do very specific remoting procedures while you're going VPN so that you can support. So, that was my question. Instead of having everybody come back, if they have VPN that's able to be pushed out through certain, as Mike pointed out, SCCM machine collections, or security collections within SCCM, you turn on PowerShell remoting across the swath of those machines, you can remote in either graphically, or if you're PowerShell or command savvy, you can do a lot of the heavy lifting, pushing things over, or enabling protocols to do things via PowerShell remoting.
The only thing that I know of that keeps us from doing that is because it's an education system, and seventh grade and up, those kids are smarter than the teachers when it comes to technology. The year before I started, we had a kid that was charging $50 to have students' grades changed. And so they had about 50 something students that couldn't walk that year because they were involved in paying this kid to change their grades so they could graduate.
Well, that's a little different.
Yeah.
Because we're talking, I mean, and I know Michael back up on this is that, we're talking machine account permissions at the machine level and within Active Directory.
Gotcha.
So we have, right, Mike, we have insulation between machine backend policies and then user policies, and then whoever your domain users are and stuff like that. That's entirely totally different than accessing per se a system that maintains grades. You have levels of granularity with that. I'll let Mike elaborate more on that, but that's totally two different sides of the coin, apples and oranges. We're talking about machine and account based items connecting back to a domain. Even though it's an educational platform, you're on a domain, so everybody has tiers of responsibility. I don't know, Mike, do you guys use, when you are the 0 tier or the new Active Directory tiers that shift from maybe a T0 up to T1, T2 type of account permissions, or no?
We have zero trust. That means nobody has any sort of admin access. Nobody has. Not even sysadmins have admin access. Nobody.
So we use a tiered approach within, well, at least with this company that I'm with, we use the tiered approach, which is, as least privilege access. If you don't need it, you don't get it. If it depends on who you are in the organization.
Your role based.
Right, it's role based, and this is an insurance company. So obviously we have people who are T0, which is the highest level, generally are the enterprise admin or the domain admins, and then the architects, and then you go T0, 1, 2, 3, up to 4 if relevant. So
yeah, and I think the issue that Mike Shinery highlighted just a few minutes ago was that their infrastructure had weak security that allowed students to actually go in and alter grade. So that's an application security issue that shouldn't have happened.
Absolutely.
Not without some form of privilege escalation or privilege elevation. If it doesn't have privilege elevation set up, and there was no way to audit that this was even happening, this should have been an alert that went out immediately that a change or a modification was made to this application to alter the grades. That should have been caught immediately, and it should have been revoked, right? And that person should have been prosecuted at the bare minimum by the school for destruction of school property. So I'm just making a point that things like what Mike Shinery is talking about does happen, and that's where not even cybersecurity even comes in. You're talking about application management, application administrators, who's in charge of that type of stuff. Somebody should be overlooking that. It can happen anywhere, but in the school district, that shouldn't happen. That should have been well thought out and well implemented from the get-go. Right,
and then that's the thing. It's the way that they do it. When you start using all these third-party applications, the grading system, the way that they keep grades and stuff, is a third-party application. So the student was able to get the teacher's password because the student had helped the teacher with her computer. Like I said, they don't know what they're doing. A lot of these teachers are not tech savvy. So the student had helped the teacher at some point with something, got her password to get into the grading system, and then was able to do it that way. And that's why I was like, my whole point was just that from 7th grade on up, these kids are really smart. So once, there are kids out there that they do this for fun. Some people are on YouTube, some people are playing games, and some of these kids are out there, going to work so that they can get to the level that, they want to get into this tech world. And so the security it's like they overdo it on some parts, but these kids are out there really trying. If a kid can put his effort into learning how to change his grades, they'll put more effort into doing that than to actually just getting good grades.
That's
So, hey,
interesting
Mike,
you say that. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was going to just ask. So it sounds like the kid got into the LMS system, the learning management system, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. We have because we're using, the grades are done, like everything's online now, man. It's weird.
Yeah. Because we use one called Canvas. I know there's Canvas, Moodle, Blackboard. Those are the big three.
Right. So we use Blackboard for contacting parents. It's become some Parent Link or something now, but we use Synergy, which is online. It's an online program that's not, we don't own it, but we have a team that manages it. But
it's like a software as a service.
Yeah, it's a service, and it's what we do is we opened up a grading window, so the grades cannot be finalized except within a certain week.
Yeah, we do the same thing. Yeah, I was finalizing in the last week of every term.
Right. And so, yeah, like this kid that did that, this was 3 years ago, so it did cause them to make changes. So when I got there, they were implementing new rules, so I was able to learn at the same time that the people I work with were learning some of these new rules and whatnot. And so I think that benefited me, because to me, I was used to these new rules as I moved in, where the other people were still learning how things are going to work now.
It's like Mike said.
Go ahead.
That teacher actually, well, I wouldn't be surprised if they caught that relatively quickly, because as the other brother said, it wasn't a machine that the kid got hold to. The kid socially engineered the teacher to get credentials.
Yeah, I was gonna say they took a different.
Which is a no-no.
Yeah, they took the social engineering approach.
Yeah, and if anything, in that type of system, there's a timestamp, even if it's online based on the back end. It isn't the kid, that teacher is being shown to have logged in multiple times, changing grades or whatever, and something looks afoot. So, I wouldn't be surprised if they came to that teacher and say, "Hey, what did you do?" And it's like, "No, I didn't do that." And eventually, they caught the kid. Now, from that standpoint, I think in a system like that, either there is a specific terminal that has to be within the school's networking framework to be able to access that resource. You can't access it from the outside of the school district or outside of the school network. So obviously, this kid was able to get to some computer and had the trust, from certain teacher helping. And while the teacher just wasn't being attentive and looking, this kid was able to access that particular node or system with those specific credentials and go in and do things that just wasn't supposed to do. And the teacher ends up getting the rap for that, because he or she's logged every time they access that resource.
Yep, exactly. And that's what they did. They did the audit. They did the timestamps, found out what teacher gave access to the students, and that's why he was only able to change certain student grades. Only students that had that teacher were able to get their grades changed. Um, but or I think it might have been a counselor. So only students that had that counselor. Um, yeah, that's what it was. It was the counselor. And so when they did look at it, the times and all that didn't match up. In fact, I want to say they were, because it was grading and the teachers do the grading and the counselors come in at the end of the end of the cycle. So what they had to implement new rules, such as a teacher turns in their grades and then either a counselor or office manager has to second the grade, meaning they're the somebody in the main office makes it official before they send it out.
Yeah, there's a chain of custody, is what they're
Right.
chain of custody.
Right.
So I want to get into because I think that was a very good dialogue as well. I want to get into the last piece of this, which is the job search piece. What are the key words people should be using and things of that nature when you want to go out there and get that role. Actually, let's use Robert Half. Okay. Share my screen real quick. What are these keywords that we should be using? Desktop support. You see, it's trying to fill itself out, so we'll go through that. And so a new list, and this I'm looking in the Atlanta area because Atlanta is a predominantly Black area. That's pretty interesting. And so what you have here is several desktop support roles in that in the Georgia state, including Atlanta here. 9 years in bachelor's degree, 10 years, 1 year, high school equivalent. What are some of the must-have skills here? Let's look at it. Desktop support, Citrix technologies, customer service, WAN technologies, migration, passwords, deployment, servers, remote access, Cisco routers, office functions, configuration management, technical support, databases, TCP/IP, Mac OS, credit card industry. So this is a financial services company. DSL. I don't want to tread down that path right now. Change management, Microsoft Access, answer inbound calls, hardware issue, LexisNexis. This is the background check company. You have no idea why they would implement that into the keywords. Windows OS, escalate issues. I mean, there's a myriad of terms that they have thrown out here, but you need to be able to filter out. You don't have to have all of these terms on your resume. And so you need to filter out what exactly are they really looking for. I can look at this from a high level and see that Citrix Technologies, they're using some kind of remote system, okay, for Citrix. Citrix is always known for remote stuff. WAN technologies, they're talking about wide area networks. So they're talking about connecting site to site, okay? Migration, meaning that they're trying to go from Windows 7 to Windows 10 or something to that effect. Deployments, meaning they're rolling out something new. Servers, who knows what they're using. Remote access, could be anything they could be using. Cisco.
Hey, Mike.
Yes, sir.
I actually see change. Sorry, go ahead. Every time I'm burning up potatoes, but I see change management in there. And let me stop this thing and I'll come in a second.
Man, I thought there was a fire drill going on. passwords, deployments, servers, remote access, Cisco routers. So that means they're using some kind of traditional legacy routers, or they're probably using Meraki. Office functions, don't care about that. Configuration management, you need to know that for from a help desk standpoint. Technical support, it's all incumbent in this. Databases, who knows what they're using? Probably SQL. TCP/IP, that goes without saying. Mac OS, so they have some Macs out there, probably some MacBooks. If they're a financial services company, they're probably using some kind of MacBook. Why they would be using it, who knows? Credit card industry, DSL, who knows what that is? Change management, Microsoft Access, that's all about Microsoft Office. I don't know why they break it apart. Answer inbound calls, okay, you're talking help desk. Hardware issues, that means they're swapping out or working on some systems that potentially are under warranty that need to be swapped out. When I used to do desktop support help desk, it was not uncommon that these stupid Lenovo systems that are so crappy at the time, they required a lot of motherboard swaps and memory swaps because they were just so crappy. Windows OS, that goes without saying. Escalate issues, yeah, so you're not in a senior role, you're escalating to a senior person. Inbound, outbound calls, silly. Network connectivity, silly. Epic software, medical. So Epic is used for electronic medical records. Remedy, that's their ticketing system. That should give you a good heads up what exactly Remedy, what they're using Remedy for. Exchange, you know that they're using Microsoft Office, not Microsoft Office, Microsoft Exchange for email. Printer hardware, goes without saying. LAN, why they spell it that way, who knows? Dell Technologies, they have some Dell systems. Novell, I pray that they're not using Novell at this point, but anything is possible in the South. Windows NT, good luck to them. Mobile Iron, so they're using Mobile Iron to manage their mobile devices and BYOD. Hardware installation, goes without saying. Mac computers, goes without saying. Rollout plan, that's a part of your deployment strategy. Resolve issues, that's a part of help desk. Troubleshoot, that's a part of help desk. Hardware and software, provide technical support, that's all help desk, desktop support. Billing functions, I don't know why that's in there. PayPal, maybe that's how you get paid. Service level agreements, that's SLA, that's all part of working with a vendor, or even working from a help ticket resolution standpoint. ISP, VoIP, so VoIP. Okay, they're using some kind of VoIP system, who knows? And the rest of it is all pretty common. VPN technologies doesn't make any sense because it doesn't really tell you anything. You just know that they're using a VPN and you hope that they are. And so you got to be able to look at this stuff and filter it out as to what are they talking about here? Okay, ready to deduce what's in there. I did this in less than 5 minutes. Okay, I probably could have did it faster if I wasn't reading it out loud, but the point of the matter here is you got to be able to look at the skill set and the role and try to deduce what it is that they're looking for. Okay. What about this one here? Another desktop support role. They all say the same thing. Windows OS. They always talk about Windows OS. I mean, if you wasn't using Windows OS, what would you be using? Software packages, network printers, deployments. So you see these sort of repetitive terms always being referred to in some of these roles, and it's because most companies, most organizations, most hiring managers are looking for the same thing. And so your skills should be transferable in some of these areas, if not all of these areas. It says aviation. I'm assuming that aviation tells me that Delta is a brand down in Atlanta or Georgia, for that matter. Okay. The ability to look at these sort of these job descriptions from an IT perspective at the entry level and say, okay, I know what they're talking about here. I have an idea. And now I can go back and actually, speak to some of these skills and buzzwords that they're using. Okay. We have Cyberline with his hand up.
Yeah, sorry about that. Beeping, I'm burning up potatoes here. But no, I was looking at some of the requirements, and as you said, namely, the ability to be able to deduce what they're talking about. I saw the MacBook in there, and a lot of companies, for the listeners out there, a lot of companies have been adopting the BYOD paradigm, where a lot of people are able to use some sort of technology where they're able to leverage a lot of the applications in the cloud, as opposed to giving out a lot of laptops and spending money on hardware to the user base that saves a lot of money. So I saw that and was thinking, potentially some BYOD where people are going to have generally MacBooks that they're going to be working on to leverage that software, those resources. And those guys are going to need to be able to navigate the Mac OS environment. And then I saw the change management piece, and right away I said, whoever's doing this type of work, they're going to have to be a little familiar with things kind of related to change management, in terms of having a change freeze, meaning there are certain things that you don't need to be doing, certain updates, certain actions that you don't want to be doing during a change freeze. And there are certain things that you need to do only when you have a change request. So those were kind of some things that stood out to me as you were reading that. And by the way, yeah, I actually have a guy who works, a good friend of mine, who works for Delta. He's a software developer, and he's thinking of coming over into the security field. So at some point, I wanted to mention that to you, because I did mention you to him. So he's probably going to be hitting you up and asking you for some very valued advice. I told him you were a very strong individual within the security field. He wants to come over into security, but he does software development at Delta currently. And, it's pretty good, but he wants to make a change. So
yeah, absolutely. You can have him on the show or something like that one of these days. I wanted to go to Vivian, see if Vivian had anything wanted to contribute while on the panel, or you just listening. I think the person doesn't understand that. Mic is muted. Your mic is muted. Vivian. All right. So you want to be able to deduce everything that's there. And I use Robert Half because I'm just using it from a example standpoint, but Robert Half is actually pretty good in my experience. So you type in a keyword that corresponds with what you're looking for, and it's going to give you some results. So let's go to network analyst. And we see quite a few results. Okay, so let's go down to, let's go to this first one. Oh, wait. Okay, so they're protecting a lot of these job profiles because for whatever reason, I guess they have some concerns. And so again, it says high school equivalent education. You don't need a college degree, as we were saying before. Go to vocational school, that works just fine. So what are the core competencies here?
Hey, Mike, real quick before we get into that. So for the people that don't work in IT, that are looking to get into IT, when they see these roles and it says network analyst, right? And it says they want 7 years of experience. Does that mean that if they were a network technician for 7 years, like what is the role before that, before they take that position? Where would they get that experience? that I think that's something important that anybody looking to get into IT should understand.
So experience could mean a variety of things. It's a very vague sort of perspective. I don't know why they put it there. It could mean anything. Anybody who's working as a network analyst for 7 years should probably have their head checked in IT. You don't work that long as a network analyst. You usually migrate on to a network administrator or network engineer.
Hello?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Hello, this is Vivian.
Hey, how are you doing?
Fine, how are you? I apologize. I have on speaker, on computer, and on my phone. I'm just enjoying the conversation, and it is fantastic. I love it.
All right, thank you.
And I wanted to also let all of you know this conversation is very dear to me because I am one of the hidden figures that are fighting for Black Americans in IT in DC. Going to the Trump administration and fighting on behalf of Black Americans that have been displaced by H-1B and the IT hiring managers that you're speaking of, who are mostly Indian, that are immediately blocking all of us out across the country. And basically, I'm with some heavyweights, if you will, across the country who are fighting for our rights. And this is a very, very good forum. I love it that you all are concentrating on a lot of the factors that African Americans definitely need to have in this day and time. And I really, really appreciate this forum. So even though you don't see me and I'm quiet, you do have, how can I say, Generation X in the background fighting on behalf of Black Americans. Also, I wanted to bring up, as far as security and how can I say, everything that's going on with coronavirus, please keep in mind that the federal government is also looking heavily for IT specialists. I had the opportunity to head up CISA in Maryland. Unfortunately, I turned it down. It was just a little too hot and heavy for me. However, there are many, many, many positions in the federal government that are in need of our skill set, be it may, however, whatever level that you're on, lower or higher. And please keep in mind that those jobs are not only in DC, but they're across the country. One of the places that you can go and look for those positions is at USA Jobs and begin to filter in, because a lot of those jobs, you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to be able to get them. And unfortunately, in the private sector, we have been locked out. Okay, so I do praise all of you who have jobs on this forum. I praise you heavily. So please keep up the good work. Even though you see my name and I'm not saying anything, I am here, I'm listening, and basically fighting for our rights in the IT field as a whole. And by the way, I am a Black executive, Black IT executive. I deal with the heavyweights, the whole entire agencies. The last agency I dealt with was the National Institute of Health and all of its 28 agencies. So when you say ServiceNow and, you know, processes and, hey, how come they don't have a process for how to get on the VPN? That's what I do. I write the service level agreements to ensure that that happens. Also with private companies, the last private company I dealt with was with U.S. Bank. They were flying me all over the place because their systems were jacked up as well. Another thing, it is very hard to find Black women in IT. So I encourage you to encourage all of those Black women in your lives, or in the one gentleman's case, he said he's with a white woman. Who cares? Just get women in, okay? So please, if you see my name on this forum and you have a question that you'd like to ask me, I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions. And thank you so very much, Mr. Mike, for giving me the opportunity to speak. And P.S., you are young in the 40s in your age. Thanks.
All right, thank you. And we appreciate everything that you do.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Vivian.
Thank you. Let me just go through this real quick and answer the question from Mike Sinnery. 7 years. This is a gross estimation for experience. no one who's in IT for 7 years is going to be a network analyst. It just doesn't work that way. Now they could be saying cumulative experience. So maybe you work help desk for a few years and you've done desktop support. That could add up and actually be attributed. Maybe you've done a vocational program for a year, that could count. Okay, so I wouldn't pay too much attention to the whole experience thing in terms of the duration that they're asking for, because it doesn't really mean much. Sometimes they'll ask in cybersecurity, a person should have 15 to 20 years. Trust me, someone who has 15 to 20 years is not looking to be an analyst. They're looking for a more senior role. So let me go down the list real quick. Leadership, customer service, customization, IP protocol, servers, training, diagnose problems. These are all help desk, service desk level terms. And so network switches, Cisco technologies, they're talking about routing and switching at this point. Okay, DSL, again, Atlanta must have some form of issue with broadband technology that they're still using DSL. Microsoft Access, that's Microsoft Outlook. Microsoft Office. Implement strategies, Windows OS. If they're not using Windows, they will probably be using Mac, but in this instance, why wouldn't they be using Windows? Network connectivity, documentation. Documentation is important. You want to make sure, like Mike Shinnery was talking about earlier, with getting teachers on board with a process, using screenshots and instructions, putting it on the SharePoint. Accounts payable. I have no idea why accounts payable would matter to a network analyst. Low voltage cabling. So you're talking about pulling wire. Okay, you're talking about pulling wire through the ceiling, through the ducts, through the data center. That's what that's about. Wireless controllers. So setting up APs, access points, network devices. Role very vague. Ethernet goes without saying. Linux technologies. Yeah, at that point, at the network level, you got to know Linux. Suspicious activity. Ooh, who really knows? PBX system. So they're talking about your voice system, or your VoIP. Toshiba. Who knows why they throw that term in there? Network cabling. We just talked about that a few seconds ago. Fiber. Monitoring tool. So they're talking about a dashboard. Desk side support. Yeah, that goes without saying. Just your responsibilities revolve around that. Prepare reports. Infrastructure. Okay. Prepare reports for your manager, IT manager. Infrastructure is all about the environment itself. Lead and troubleshoot. Those all help desk and desktop support roles. Skills. TDM, property, communication, installation, VoIP. Again, I don't know why I throw VoIP up in there. Diagram, cable installation. So you're talking about wiring up things. SolarWinds, so that's usually used for monitoring certain instances within the organization. Desktop hardware, Avaya. Avaya is used for VoIP. Investigation, so that's a part of incident management, and radio communication. Try not to get hung up on all of these terms and trying to fill it out on your resume. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You just be shooting in the dark. You just look like a bunch of goofy soup inside your resume and your cover letter. You want to come with the core fundamentals. If you pass the Network Plus, it's, all of this is going to apply to you anyways. Let's go to.
I was going to say it'll be in it'll all kind of be in your resume, right? Like you can look a hiring manager when they go over a resume, the relevancy and all of your experience and what it is that and they'll best judge it to how they're going to need you to apply it. Mm-hmm. So exactly, you don't have to.
Mike, you're breaking up a lot, Complex.
Okay.
Cyberline has his hand up. Let's go.
Hey, thanks, Mike. Hey, Vivian, again, thank you for your back end, behind the scenes contribution. To that point, I wanted to ask a couple questions and make something known, especially since you mentioned, more Black sisters in the IT space. I think a issue that goes unknown and unspoke about is treatment of Black women within the IT spaces. I've seen examples that within a lot of companies, a lot of the Black women do experience a lot of hardship when it comes to having their voices heard, as well as being questioned in terms of their capabilities. So I would like to know from your viewpoint at a high level, what recommendations did you have on that? Also, you are correct. A lot of the IT spaces and contract spaces are populated with Indian companies. I actually happen to work for one and have worked with them. And I could share a lot of detail on that at a later time. But what's your experience and what are your recommendations from your level when it regards to protecting Black women from certain injustices within the IT space?
Sure. Thank you very much for the questions. First and foremost, I'd like to, prior to addressing what you're stating, address the descriptions that Mr. Mike was explaining. Please keep in mind that all of those descriptions have to do with labor categories for the federal government to allow H-1B workers to come in and take over those positions. So I wanted to have that, all of you bear that in mind when you're looking at descriptions. As Mike stated, you don't have to have all of them. However, you still need to go ahead and apply so that you can be on record as applying. As far as Black women are concerned, unfortunately, we join Black men and white women and everyone else with being displaced and being undermined in our positions. I've had that happen to me a couple of times. I had one woman tell me that I'm an IT service management subject matter expert in my own mind. And if you go on LinkedIn and connect with me and read my bio, you will see that I'm way up there. Let's just put it like that. But as far as Black women are concerned, all of us as a consortium of people need to be watching our backs, because not only are they getting rid of us fast, but they're getting rid of the white folks fast too. And there are groups out there that I'm associated with who are trying to get to the Trump administration to explain to them that, hey, not only are we being displaced because of our national origin, but Black people are being displaced because we're Black people, and H-1Bs, the caste system doesn't work very well when dealing with India workers, no matter how high they are. Plus, we're also being discriminated against in the hiring management because HR managers are mostly from India. So we're being displaced there as well. Black women, it is extremely hard because prior to all of this becoming public, we were already discriminated against. And the only thing that we can do is actually watch our backs at this point, because until all of us come together and actually do something or say something, we are in trouble right now. As I stated before, I love that all of you currently have jobs, but please keep in mind, watch your back. That's all I can tell you. As far as what is being fought for here in D.C., I was the only Black American who met with the Trump administration explaining the plight of Black America as far as IT is concerned. Because not only are we looking to grow in IT, but we are also being displaced at a higher level than most of what you see out here. The current 3.28 million people that were just displaced, most of them are going to be replaced with India workers, and it's happening now. How can I say? It's very discerning, but until we all come together as one, we are going to be in trouble as well. And that's what I've been working on, is to find a way for Black America in IT to come together to voice our concerns as we lose our jobs as well. We've lost a lot of them. AT&T was the biggest one so far. Most of the workers were Black, and they were in IT, help desk heavily. And a lot of women. There were a lot of Black women in those positions that lost their jobs as well. So I'm fighting for them. I'm fighting for all of you. As I stated, I'm like hidden figures in the background, fighting. And I'm at this point looking to, how can I say this nicely? The Caucasian race has come to me to organize Black America because they know that if the boat is sinking and we're all on it together at this point. And they know that they need us to help them plug the holes. The holes that are being put in are from India and China right now. They are taking all of our jobs, not only in IT, but manufacturing, healthcare. They have just basically done some things wrong. Right now, India is in the process of lobbying Congress about bringing down the barriers for remote work, for them to work remotely at home for the banking sector and the healthcare sector. But there are laws in place that forbid them from doing that, plus their infrastructure. And I know you guys know what I'm talking about. Their infrastructure for IT sucks. I mean, they don't even have a national infrastructure for sewer lines, let alone IT.
And
so we're in trouble.
There's that whole HIPAA thing. Yeah.
Yes, you have HIPAA going on. You have the PCI DSS for the purchase card industry. There are a lot of federal laws that are in effect that stop these big, gigantic organizations or companies from just giving our information away, even though it sits in databases in India. But they just can't just give all these people the information at their homes, you know. But we are more suited here for that type of remote work than they are. And so there's a big fight right now behind the scenes being fought on behalf of us as remote workers versus them as remote workers. So here soon, I will be asking and coming out and asking our Black IT Americans to come and join me in joining them to fight the globalism of IT as it stands today.
You know,
so it's not just
Chennai.
I'm sorry.
No, so I know in Chennai, and I know Tata is probably a big name that's probably come across your desk. They are probably within America the number one IT outsourcer based in India, as well as Infosys. And I think another thing is that, you know, when you mentioned the infrastructure, you know, I've been around for quite some time, also in the background, but, you know, Chennai had that flood some years ago, and a lot of the infrastructure based over there was compromised. They had a backup, but it did take quite a while to get those backups online until they got some of the main infrastructure in Chennai repaired. So no, you're exactly right on that.
Yes, yes. Not only them, but also, I'm not sure if all of you saw, Tucker Carlson on Fox News did a special on H-1Bs and their effects on the American workers.
Yeah,
I was a part of that, as I stated, yes, in the background. I was a part of that. There was a young lady on there named Sarah Blackwell. She brought me into this whole United States IT thing from a Black American perspective. Excuse me. And her and I worked together to basically get the word out there as far as Black America is concerned, because no one is hearing our voice. I'm basically the only one out there saying anything. And I'm watching as my Black brothers, such as you all, are losing their jobs. You know, one day you just come in and they pink slip you, basically, and they tell you, you know, hey, hire this guy over here that's from India that's coming in a few weeks, and I'll give you your severance pay. So it's happening a lot all over the country. There are people out there fighting for it. There's another young lady, Dawn Casey. Who else? a lot of organizations, the only issue with that is that no one's speaking on behalf of Black Americans. And I say that because when you hear the India people, they have their lobbyists, they have all kinds of bills going through Congress, and they say that they're being discriminated against. Well, excuse me, we've been discriminated against for 150 million years, okay? And so the 1964 Civil Rights Act was not written for you for national origin. It was written for Black America. And there's no one out there that is speaking about this. And like I said, I praise all of you who have jobs on this telephone call today. I really do. All I can tell you is keep looking in the back, because they're coming and they're trying to displace us as fast as possible. And I'm working as hard as I can.
Vivian, Black Torch had a question for you, and his question was, do you need a security clearance for the roles that you're referring to?
No. If you go on USA. Oh, okay.
Hey, what's going on, Black Torch?
All right, how are you? How you doing, Vivian?
Hello.
All right.
Fine.
Yes. No, I was just because I worked on some projects which was called sensitive and all, and you had to have certain other requirements that's really not really spelled out on USA Jobs. I can't say what exactly, but they are. But there are some certain requirements that you don't find out about until you actually show up to the interview, and then they start asking you these questions. So if you got to read those things real carefully in USA Jobs.
Yes, you do. However, what is occurring is that if they don't want to sponsor you, then the job automatically goes to an H-1B worker. The problem with that the Protect U.S. workers, U.S. tech workers, the Citizens for Immigration Studies, that Jessica Vaughn, I'm a part of that as well. What we have been saying is you're willing to sponsor an H-1B worker as a government worker under contract, but you are not willing to sponsor Black Americans who have the same skill set. But you're willing to bring these people over here on my federal taxpayer dollar and put them to work, give them a waiver, but you can't put my Black American IT workers to work? No, that is unacceptable. So that's what I'm fighting for.
You know, Vivian, we had the same discussion a couple of days ago, and when you see, the problem is, okay, you got placement agencies, right, who try to do the right thing, put you in there, but as you well stated, and what we all know is that when you get in there, there's an Indian or a Chinese there, and they're acting as the gatekeepers. But
correct.
I'm looking, and then the other problem is, and this is what we got to understand, is once you're in there, once you're in the job, you're doing your work, then they bring in more Indians or more Chinese, and then they ask you to train them. And these guys are not, I don't know where they're getting their fraudulent certificates. And I said it, they're fraudulent because half of them don't know what they're doing. And they want you to train them. And the managers know what's going on, but they don't do anything about it.
Yeah. Johnny Blaze had his hand raised as well. I think
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead, Johnny Blaze.
Hey, Mike, I just had a quick question for you. When you were going through the job descriptions and the different positions, do you have a thing on the community tab that kind of lists like entry level all the way to the high level of IT?
I do not, because it varies, through different lines of roles, right? So
we'd have to find some sort of graphic or something that kind of gives a visual.
Well, we kind of went over that with the CompTIA, right? The CompTIA framework actually kind of breaks down entry level to mid level to senior level. We did that quite a few times, but it's such a moving target that you can never really get an understanding of what entry level or what senior really means anymore, because they're saying, well, you must have 7 years of experience. Well, this is an entry level role. A person with 7 years experience is not going to be working an entry level role, right? So there's a lot of the IT industry is very fragmented in how it looks at IT positions. You know, desktop support, help desk. What's the difference? No one really knows. You know, network admin, network engineer, cybersecurity, cybersecurity engineer, cybersecurity architect. But all of these things are very vague. They're just titles. The industry is very it's very screwed up, and it's done so because people have a vested interest in titles. And I don't want to get too deep into the political aspect behind it, but there's a lot of people who are very title driven. So they like to have these very glorious titles, but they can't really apply any of the responsibilities and skill set that they're toting. It's very ideologically driven. So, but that, to answer your question, no, we haven't put anything on the community tab. But I'm glad that we have Vivian on the phone because, or on the panel, because we've been having this discussion for the last few years now, and people have been trying to avoid having this conversation. We've been having this conversation for almost every Saturday for the last 2 years. So
yeah, and Vivian, thank you, because we feel vindicated in a large sense by your presence and what it is that you've come on to share with us. So thank you.
Yeah,
you're very welcome.
Yeah,
and one more thing, if I could just share one more thing with all of you. And I've been in IT for well over 20 years, okay, at a very high level, dealing with C-levels and explaining what HW and SW means. Okay, hardware, software people, hello, you know, I mean, that's what, you know, thinking in my mind. But one thing I did want to let all of you know that even I just found out and had no idea, that it is the Department of Justice that actually goes after the employees for workplace IT discrimination. Had no idea. I'm like, really? What about the Department of Labor? Well, what the hell is the EEOC doing? Okay, all right, okay, let's just go with it and go.
Wouldn't that be the jurisdiction under which you would adjudicate something like that? I mean, and look, Vivian, so in my resume, I was an HR manager, a recruiting manager.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That technically, based on what you said, that falls under EEOC jurisdiction.
Actually, it does not.
Really?
And yeah, all of us high level folks tricked all of us out. We all have just found out that it is under the Department of Justice, because when you talk about IT, you're talking about how can I say national origin.
Oh, okay. So
there is a loophole. You got it.
Okay.
So when it's national origin, it goes to the Department of Justice, and they have a department that sues all these people on behalf of employees who have been discriminated against because of national origin. And that falls under the INA Act, the Immigration and Natural. Yeah, and nobody knew about it until last week. We all found out about it. And I'm talking people who go into the White House, Jessica Vaughn of the Center for Immigration Studies. You know, she's in constant contact with the White House fighting for H-1B to go away, OPT, all of that, F-1, all of it. Go away. You are displacing American workers. And all of us just found out that the Department of Justice is the one that's supposed to sue. However, the Department of Justice can't sue unless they have probable cause. But you can't have probable cause if nobody knew that that's the department that sues.
Well, that's what I mean. That's where if you pursue it through a loophole angle, then now you get into this legal rabbit hole or slippery slope, right? Where oh my God. Okay.
So I and myself have been putting together a team that will allow how can I say this type of forum that you have, except it will be for everybody. And when I say everybody, you would not imagine how many India folks I know who are citizens who have been kicked out because they're Indians, but they're protected under the Employment Act, the one that says you have to give them, you have to pay taxes and health care and all this other stuff, and they can sue you. A lot of India workers that are working and are U.S. citizens by green card or whatever, naturalization, are being fired as well. So they've jumped on board. However, there is not a forum for all of us to be able to talk about what we are experiencing and be able to congregate and get everybody together and have interviews with everyone saying, hey, okay, all of us put our information together. There's no forum out there for that right now. So as far as Black America is concerned, that's what I have been trying to do, and trying to, okay, everybody's sitting down for this one, enlist our older Black Americans, such as Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton, the Congressional Black Caucus. You know, you have to go through all of them. As far as IT is concerned. But as far as IT is concerned, they could care less about our kids and their knowledge of, you know, IT and their well-being.
Yeah, good luck with that one.
I mean, I have to try. I have to throw it out there. But this is what we are up against as a community. We are being left behind for the future, for the fourth generational big wave, which is IT.
So do you think we should form one of those lobbying groups that lobbies against this by making what is it called, the 401c group that
501c?
Yeah, 501, yeah, that we actually put that together, and then
I think what she's saying here is that there's already, this is more of a national mandate, in the sense that we're talking about offshore workers displacing terrestrial employees to facilitate domestic support roles and things of that sort. I think so.
Yeah.
We're talking about this as sort of like a kind of a national mandate thing. Oh, just real quick, I don't want to digress, but Vivian, somebody's requesting either like your LinkedIn. I think they're requesting your LinkedIn. You're on the phone.
I am on the phone. I am on LinkedIn. If you look me up under Vivian Ibrahim, that's Ibrahim, and I'm a Black American with, I'm also Muslim, so my head is covered. Awesome. That's another shocker. When I walk in there to sea levels, they look like, what the? But as you can see, and you're talking to me, my picture is shocking. Okay, it shocks them when I walk in, and then I begin to speak as a Black American from the ghetto. They're like, "What?" Okay, they're in shock. But I am on there.
Vivian, can you repeat your information one more time?
Sure. My name is Vivian, Vivian, Vivian Ibrahim. That's I as in India, B as in boy, R Robert, A Alpha, H Henry, I India, M Mother. And I will also tell all of you on the phone that you are officially the first ones in the whole United States who have found out about me, because I'm very silent on Twitter. I don't tweet. I just look and read, and I'm not out there, if you will, all over the place. I don't say much.
Vivian, I'm curious. How did you come across this? Nas Escobar 316 on Twitter.
Okay.
And he put out, he, hey, you need to listen to this. And he put it out there, and so, oh, okay, I'll listen. And that's how I caught up with all of you.
You know,
shout out to him.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to Rainy Woman, because she handles the Twitter for us. It's interesting that you bring up fourth industrialization. We have been beating this drum for the last 3 years that Black people are not in a position to take any sort of position in the fourth industrial complex in terms of emerging technologies. We're not there. We're not there. We just had this discussion. I'm showing the picture on the screen. We just had this very discussion at our NISB chapter not too long ago, about a month or so ago, okay, back in February, had the same exact discussions. There is an unwillingness on our political representatives in the Democratic Party to actually have this deeper sort of discussion. They think that we can just get by, by working at Best Buy or something like that for Geek Squad. We're talking about major transformational changes that's happening, and we're not even a part of the discussion. And it really frustrates me because I just came back from Africa. They have probably about 2 to maybe 2 dozen conferences right now throughout the rest of the year, having all of these sort of deep dive discussions on fourth industrialization. And when I come here, people don't want to have the discussion at all. We get very low support for these sort of discussions.
You are absolutely correct. And that is because of the history of Black Americans being consumers for so very long. Mm-hmm. And when we want to step up, unfortunately, this has been going on since the 60s as we have progressed in society as a whole. And no one wants to speak about any of the inventions and innovation that Black Americans have been in the background doing. Mm-hmm. No one wants to put it to the forefront. Our current leaders have been left behind because half of them will look at you and say, "Can you get my phone to work?" And unfortunately, my generation, I'm in Generation X, way up there, but my generation has been very silent and going along with this facade because we're just happy to have jobs. Mm-hmm. And
well,
unfortunately,
Vivian, just to let you know, I'm a young Gen X. I'm 42.
Okay.
So I'm always, what I've found is that the younger Gen Xers that are kind of fall within my age range have largely been, this would include Mike. We were like the early adopters. We were the tinkerers, the hackware guys, that. And I think because we've seen things from so many different angles, it kind of gives us, this is kind of why this forum exists now, sort of like the culmination of what we've learned up until this point. Mm-hmm. And just kind of being able to look at trends and where things are going. Mm-hmm. So that's really what that's really what this is, and I think it's honestly, in my view, it is this venue largely is the creation of Gen Xers. To be quite honest, now there were also founding members that were shout out to my business partner Anti-Gravity, another founding member. He's a millennial. I think he's 22, 23 now. So it's also very much the millennials that are very much a driving force and factor in this. But I think it's really Gen Xers who have been able to kind of take the sum total of what it is that we've all learned and acquired and say, okay, let's really kind of push this here. Let's test what we know.
Mm-hmm. Well, yes, that's true. And I'll be honest with all of you, it's been very weird to be called a racist. Who are you? You're racist. You're not. And I'm like, really? Okay, this is not happening to me. I mean, I'm in shock personally. I'm still in shock. Considering that, I have 2 bucks. My grandfathers were bucks, total bucks. Okay. And to be here and fight on behalf of Black America that helped build this country, has been really, really interesting. The thing about it is, this is the first forum that I have found that actually speaks to IT workers, Black IT workers. Mm-hmm. And even though we know that we're out there, and I've gone to DC and I've fought and I've sat and hey, what about Black America? You know, all these, you know, white Americans are sitting around the table, a couple of India folks. However, Black America is not represented, and I am the first person to actually deal with the Trump administration as far as Black IT workers are concerned. And we are being triple discriminated against, if you want to say that, you know, like that. Not only are we Black, but we're U.S. citizens. You know, I mean, we've got a lot of discrimination going on against us that's pushing us even further back. And as I stated, unfortunately, our leaders are not saying anything about this, but I am. And I'm leading the pack for Black Americans. And, you know, like I said, you guys are the first people to even have heard of me, because I have not said anything. I've just been watching everything that has been going on in the IT community as a whole and how we've been being displaced. Now, Sarah Blackwell, that brought me into all of this, her and Jessica Vaughn, she was the Disney lawyer. When Disney got displaced and Trump was running around with all these Disney workers saying how he was going to help and do this and that, she was a part of that because she was their lawyer. She's also the lawyer for AT&T. Jessica Vaughn, if you look on, Citizens Immigration Studies, it is a think tank here in the greater DC area. Jessica Vaughn is who brought me to Sarah Blackwell. And Sarah Blackwell said, wait a minute, we've been waiting for you. And I was like, really? Okay, who you don't even know who I am. And she, no, we've been waiting for Black America. And all I could do was just sit there and look at her. I didn't know what to say because she's right. You know, we, as a national people, we have not said anything in IT. It's just been by the wayside. So it's basically time for us to wake up. Me too. You know, I've been living high on the hog off of my education and my experience. I'll admit it. But the millennials are being left behind. You know, they are really hurting right now, and it's time. I have decided it's time, and I'm reaching out to all of you, you know, to basically assist, you know, with whatever we need to have our voices heard as well. And like I said, it's great having a job now, but you got 85,000 more H-1B workers who are coming in as of yesterday.
Yeah. And that's why we have this platform, you know, these weekend discussions is really dedicated towards the millennials. 33 or 35% of our subscribers are actually Black millennials. And so that's why you know, we focus on this stuff a lot. Fourth industrialization is very important. I mean, Complex and myself, we can't stress it enough that you're going to get in the way if you don't catch up. There's a McKinsey report that we went over a couple months ago from 2019 that shows that Black men are going to be disproportionately impacted by fourth industrialization by 2030 if they don't upskill in these areas.
That is correct.
And people think that, you know, they can wait it out. I can tell you right now, you're not going to wait it out. You're not going to wait it out. You're going to get left behind, and you may not get hired again for anything.
That is very true.
There won't be any more jobs left for you.
And I am what made me get up off the couch and do what I'm doing, because I could have just as easily said the hell with it and kept on going with my life. As you look at my LinkedIn, I do very well. And I could have just said the hell with it. But my thing was, okay, I'm watching all of these India people and these Chinese people driving these Mercedes SUVs, living in $500,000 townhouses. And it's just sickening because, you know, what about my Black people? Right. What about us?
Right.
And it's just sickening. It's sickening. They're making $140,000, $150,000, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And then they're pulling in their H4 EAD wives who are calling all of us on the phone saying, I get just for you. No, you don't. Okay. You just want my information to steal my resume and all of my everything that I have and steal it and use it for whomever your little India cast person is that you want to bring over here.
Why don't
but it is, I'm sorry?
No, I was just going to ask a question. Do you think in DC, do you think there will be room or a venue for having a Black IT town hall?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Because I'm up for it. Just let me know. We'll drop the link in the chat for the Black Brain Trust email, and we can really chop it up there. Because this is something that we have been talking about for quite a few years, a couple of years now. And I think it's time in 2020 that we do have that discussion openly on the floor during this administration, especially after this pandemic blows over.
Yes, it is going to blow over, and unfortunately, it's going to blow a lot of us out of unemployment. Some of us have been unemployed for quite some time, but yes. Now, my biggest problem with Black America is that it's very hard to get all of us together. Since 1964, we haven't really, gotten together as a race. We haven't really, Martin Luther King, he did his thing, but then, the dream dropped off and it started to become a nightmare for us. And we're partly to blame. I'll admit that, but people are waking up. And I'll be honest with all of you, I've been an independent since I turned 18. Okay, so I'm not Democrat or Republican. I could care less. What I care about is what are we doing for our people? What are we doing to make sure that the next generation has a chance? And right now, I'm looking at the millennials, and I've got millennials crying on the phone with their student loans that they can't find a job and this and that, and it's a mess. Okay, so count your blessings again if you have a job. Count your blessings. As far as a town hall, as I stated before, I'm just now really saying something. You guys are the first people that I've even said anything to. Okay, so as far as setting up a town hall and all that good stuff, that would be kind of hard for me because I'm just now speaking out. Even though I've gone to the Trump administration, they know who I am. I've been very silent because I've been trying to get a top secret clearance with SCI, so I don't do a whole lot. Okay, and if any of you know about the government, it's that high of a clearance, you have to be, I've been by the wayside for almost my whole life trying to get one. So,
yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah, when you got to go down to, depending on what agency, they come and visit your friends, then your family and your school teachers, and they interview, and then you go to the polygraph. Well, that's the most fun.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Have you even thought about messing around on your husband? Well, it's a mess. But, at this point, I am willing to speak out. My biggest problem is getting enough guts to go to my Black leaders and say, okay, I've had it enough. I mean, I'm getting there. I am getting there. I mean, if I went to the Trump administration and, smacked them around a little bit, I basically told Mr. Cuccinelli, yes, the H-1B workers are in control of our electrical grid system. And when the lights go out, I'm coming to your house. Okay? Okay? Me and my family will be there because you've just given away our national security of our electrical grid to another country. And I thought he was going to fall out the seat. But that's IT. That's what it is.
Yeah,
and that's...
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was saying. If we have one of those 503B groups or whatever it is, that a lobbying group, we can have the group or personnel go up there as the face. We don't have to expose ourselves like that.
Right.
And that's what and that's what I was meaning by that, because you don't want to go there and then you got to go back to your job and deal with the angst of dealing with retribution. That's why I think, and it doesn't cost a lot for us to put it to make one.
Yeah,
no, Black Torch. That's the thing. I've been a staunch advocate of, and I put it in very crude terms, right? Buying your politicians, right? But by any other word or term or phrase, it's basically lobbying.
Exactly.
And I've been on record plenty of times of saying this, like, look, it's any any other group that has an interest that they give a damn about, they utilize lobbying
Okay, so since I'm home now, and my company has me going back and forth, I'm gonna find the paperwork and try to start one.
Well, you know, one of the things that Vivian, is that a lot of these big organizations, pharmaceutical and otherwise, have signed stipulation for these tax incentives, these tax breaks, so that they can hire minorities. They're supposed to have a significant quota to be met, and they're not meeting these quotas, and they're getting away with these sort of tax breaks from these cities and these states, and they're not owning up to it. And it's a lot of money. It's millions of dollars on the table that they're ripping people off for, especially in places like Cambridge, Massachusetts, with MIT and Harvard and you know, all of these big life sciences, biotech firms. They're not hiring a significant amount of Black people that they're supposed to. In fact, most of the Black people that they're hiring is at the entry level in positions that they have no growth for. And so they end up either leaving or they just get stuck in transition. Either if you want to move up, you got to leave. And then that's how they claim the quota. Or now they're starting to claim that, yeah, we hire minorities, like you say, they bring these Indian people in. And so we got to put pressure on all of these parties involved. And I always been a staunch advocate for like starting a national Black chamber of information technology to actually take on these sort of ideals. But I really would never use NISB for something like this. NISB serves a different purpose. But you know, we have these conversations probably about the last 3 months.
Yeah, this is a more.
Yeah,
I was gonna say that Mike, this is a more specialized. This is a more niche interest, and that would require something else.
Yeah. Well, it serves a different purpose. Yeah, but right. The idea here is that they should not be able to get away. These companies that get these tax incentives for, you know, building infrastructure and whatnot in these areas, and the intention is actually to bring on more Black employees, but they never ever fulfill that gap, right? They always bring on some ambiguous person from another country and whatnot, and then they just kind of close the door and say we filled our quota. There has to be some emphasis put behind it on the money that is being siphoned out of these communities. MIT has done a great job at you know, opening up their you know, their facilities for community engagement. You know, there's a lot of you know, floor space and whatnot that has been opened up for you know, for minorities or Black people as a whole to engage in some of the you know, the resources that they have available. That they have done, but the rest of the institutions have not done any of that. They're very slick at what they're doing and getting away with it. And then they move to another city and take the tax incentives with them. You know, it really grinds my gears. It really grinds my gears.
Well, one thing that got to me was the 8A certification that was set up for Black people specifically for receiving contracts.
Yes.
And when I saw that an Indian company was 8A certified, I almost passed out. Okay. But this is what they're doing. They're taking that concept and applying it to a people who are not even U.S. citizens. So that's how they're getting away with it. And because we as a people don't have the infrastructure set up internally within our race to go and apply pressure to the government and say, hey, wait a minute, this company is lying, that company is lying. You know, we are the key. We are the key. It's not the white people. They can't really do anything without us because we are being discriminated against, that we are the ones that can plug the holes and throw those people overboard. Mm-hmm. And that is what they're waiting on. Trust me. But I haven't been able to do anything because, number one, I'm unemployed. Okay. And number two, you know, how do I get all of these people and, you know, the Black stars and all of those people to understand exactly what's happening in IT and how it affects our future? Because with every company from the CEO all the way down to the secretary, IT affects the whole entire company. I don't care if it's accounting, HR, who cares? And we're being left behind. That's what's happening.
Yeah.
You know, I can't say it any better. Like I said, I'm looking for a way to contact even Jesse Jackson. You know, my husband worked on his 88 presidential campaign, you know, but it's like, you know, getting to him is very hard. But then I have to realize, and my husband always tells me, you know, Vivian, he's up there in age. It's time for you guys to get up and do something, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my goodness, here we go. Okay, well, how come somebody else can't get up? Why I gotta be me, you know? And I'm being chosen, so here I am.
Yeah, let's go to Cyberlion. He has his hand up. You have a question?
Yeah, sure. Thanks again, Mike. Hey, Vivian. So, you know, I guess my question was somewhat answered, but you know, when we look at this from a business posture, right? The willingness of some of these private companies, as you mentioned, you know, that's kind of what the battle is. What have you seen in terms of the sentiment for some of these private companies to consider these particular changes in contractual agreement where, you know, some of the staffing is more diversified? Because I think something that, you know, all of us know as executives and engineers is that a lot of companies kind of hold the crystal ball when it comes to that. And you know, Mike elaborated to an excellent point, is that those particular companies have to be held accountable for making kind of backdoor or trapdoor moves in terms of not being held accountable to what they're supposed to be doing in terms of contracts. But what have you seen? And because of my experience, I've seen a lot of companies have the posture that, well, when it comes to them spending their dollar, you know, obviously any business, they're looking for a value add. So obviously, you know, I think this conversation would be amiss without saying that, of course, we want to have our people in position to realize some of the best opportunities out there for these, you know, for these companies. And we want those people to be well positioned, you know, something that Black Brain Trust has always done. You know, they're capable, able, and willing to and ready to be in these positions. But what has been the sentiment for these businesses being interested in seeing through this type of initiative on the ground, as opposed to saying, well, it's about my money and the value that I feel that I'm getting. I feel that I'm getting a better value because I'm spending less money with this group here overseas offshore, as opposed to this group here at home, even though they may be just as well suited. What has been your experience from that perspective?
Well, that was a very, very good question, and one that basically I am the initiator of for the Caucasian folks, if you will, the Tech USA workers, U.S. Coalition of IT, Protect U.S. workers, all of them, when they ask me, well, Vivian, we need something that's going to be a powerhouse. Okay, you're going to ask the only Black person in the room. Fine, let me give it to you. Federal taxpayer dollar. Every last one of us pays federal tax dollars. The problem that I have is you, Microsoft, you, Google, you, Amazon, you, AT&T, you, Verizon, have all been receiving multi-billion-dollar contracts from the federal government. I have a problem with that. I really have a problem with that. You as a private company, I could care less what you do with your private money. But the money that you're getting from us, the federal taxpayer dollars, you must hire Americans. Stop hiring these H-1B workers and paying for them to fly over here. No, I'm done with that. When I brought that up on the Tucker Carlson special, Miss Sarah Blackwell that was on there, she actually, Vivian, we need something. Okay, let me give you the AT&T figure of the federal government and how much they currently spend right now, this second. The federal government is giving to AT&T. As I stated before, Mr. CEO of AT&T, you can spend all the little private money you want, but the money that we give you as a taxpayer, you are supposed to be spending it on the United States. And it was $22 billion, okay, so far. Not only that, but let me see, what else? Lost my train of thought when I think about AT&T and Amazon. And Amazon just lost that contract against Microsoft, a $10 billion contract. But if you think about it, Microsoft and Amazon both don't hire H-1Bs. One of the things that I brought up to them and explored them is that our federal taxpayer dollars as a United States is being spent on our own demise. And that's all of them. Oh my goodness, all of them were through. They were totally finished on that one because they had never thought about it that way.
Hey,
that's yes.
Oh, I was gonna say there's a question for you in the
Sure.
chat. Someone said, can you elaborate on how foreign recruiters use American resumes for foreign recruits?
Yes, what they do is they know they get, when they talk to an American, they know where, we all sound, we have a certain sound in the India folks, the Telugu and language, they all know we're Americans. So once they get the Americans on the phone, they get you to send your resume to them. Once you send them the resume, that's one of the ways that they exclude you and take your information. Another way is when they ask you how much do you expect to be paid for that position, everybody on this phone call knows that until you're hired, the salary is determined then. But what they do is they exclude you by getting you to tell them a salary on the phone. That's another ways that they screen. And they say that, well, we can't find Americans for this amount. That's another way. What else? And we all know about their fake colleges and all that good stuff. We already know. But once they get you to send them your resume, you basically open up all of your information to them, and they just take and copy and paste.
Yeah, I have a lot. No, I was just going to say that I have a lot. I have, the LinkedIn professional, and I can see a lot of Indians looking at my job profile on LinkedIn.
Yes, they do it on LinkedIn as well. They're very good at that. Mm-hmm. The problem that I have, and I've stated this to some very, very high-level people in some very high-level positions, that I have a real problem with you using my federal taxpayer dollar. I don't care if I'm from the hood, okay? Get my damn money back and don't spend it on them for my own damn demise. And they all were silent on the phone and in our meetings. They were like, are you kidding me? I didn't know this. I didn't know that. Well, where can I go to get this information and that information? So I had to send them to the website for the federal government saying how much Microsoft gets in their contracts. And what they have been doing is they have been taking, how they get around hiring black folks, is they take the prime contract, and then that prime contract has to have minority contractors or third-party vendors. And those companies that end up being the third-party vendors are the ICCs, the India companies.
Yep.
And
Absolutely.
so they take them and hire all of them onto the jobs. And that's how they've been getting away with it. Now, as far as us coming together, being able to do something about that, there is actually, I have been writing an executive order for the President of the United States called We the People. And what that does is it takes the, let me see, how can I explain this? The military, in order, not the military, but for top secret clearance of some things, there is actually a law that stipulates that they have to be top secret, they have to have this, they have to have that. I have panned that act for Americans only. U.S. citizens only, U.S. citizens, U.S. citizens, U.S. citizens, because Congress is not going to do anything about it.
No.
Whether we're black, white, green, they don't care. Okay? They're not going to do anything about what's happening in America and how we are being displaced.
They're plutocrats.
So, yeah, they are. And unfortunately, the CBC is also there, the Congressional Black Caucus. Yep. I mean, sometimes I just want to slap some of them, but some of them are so old that, you know, it would not shock me if they're using those old Bell telephones. You know, they may be faking it with the, you know, with the iPhones, but half of them don't even know how you turn the damn computer on. Yeah. They don't know, but it's at the expense of our millennials and our Generation Z that's being affected, because those old, crappy, old black folks are still there talking about 1960. Mm-hmm. Okay? It's not 1960 anymore. This is a real fight. And the fight, we need to actually come together along with the white folks. I hate to say it like that, but that's what's happening. Because we can't do it by ourselves. I am the only Black American right now who is in that world fighting for Black Americans. I was a part of the S386, No to S386. You see all the billboards all over the place. Miss Dawn Casey, who's in New York, I was at a meeting with her with the Trump administration. She's the one that got all of that together for the No 386 billboards that you see all over the country. So there are many things that we can do all together to help this cause. But first, we've got to come together as a race, because I have a hard time personally explaining what Black America is doing. I can't explain it. That's why I've been silent. You know, I do my own thing, but I can't. What do you want me to say on behalf of us? What you know, if anybody has anything in the room, please raise your hand and tell me what I'm supposed to say, because I only see one person behind me, and that's me.
Go ahead, Complex.
I was going to say, largely, it's nothing worth mentioning. I was going to say, just it's largely nothing worth mentioning.
Yeah. Let's go, Josh. You got your hand up.
Yo, what's up, Josh?
What's up, guys? How y'all doing? What's up, Miss Vivian, Mike V, Complex, you know, Mike Shinner, all you guys.
All right.
I just wanted to, you know, kind of add to what Miss Vivian just said about the whole people calling and trying to get information. This is somewhat happened to me. I've gotten calls and they try to get your, you know, your information, your resume, try to get and they're posed as they're trying to put you in for a position. And if you're desperate, you know what I'm saying, you'll kind of fall for it, because you're thinking, okay, this might be a good opportunity. Let me go down and send them my resume. And, you know, they had your information copy pasted and all that stuff. So she laid it out, you know, very well. And I just been soaking up the game, you know, sitting in the background. I just wanted to hop in for that. And then also, I just wanted to state, you know, during this crisis or whatever, you know, people should be taking advantage of this time to get some training done. I know, you know, everybody got, you know, family issues. You're trying to take care of your family and all that stuff, but just try to take advantage of some of the time that you're sitting around to get into some of this training. And that just kind of relates to the whole topic of the conversation, or this stream that you guys were talking about, as well as, you know, working on those certifications, you know what I'm saying? So just want to throw that out there.
Yeah, thank you for that, man, because, you know,
thank you.
We've been talking about this for quite some time. We talk about it every week. I tell people, you better get your certs up. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. I don't know why so many Black people try to ignore it and try to wing their way through the system. It doesn't work that way anymore. We're up against a force that's greater than our own at this point. And we're sitting on our thumbs doing nothing about it. And so, Vivian, I did add you on LinkedIn. So you should see my,
okay.
Yeah, you should see.
Yeah, I did as well.
Okay, no problem. Thank all of you. Yeah. And I'll be honest with all of you on the phone. My motto, let me tell you this now. I told you I'm the sister from the hood. It's hard out here for a pimp, but it's hard out here for a pimpette too. Okay, all right. I just want to let all y'all know. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, Vivian. I'm going to try to set up a 10-point docket as to what are the objectives we need to go through on this whole entire presentation about Black people in IT.
Okay, I'll be more than happy to be a speaker or be on the panel or whatever you all have going. Please, by all means, hit me up. Like I said, I'm not out there yet, but I'm coming. You guys have pushed me out there. I couldn't take it anymore.
I had one more question for Vivian. This is Black Torch again.
Okay.
Okay. Now, maybe I'm being a cynical person, but I have to ask this question. What guarantee, if we do get those H-1B visa people out, will the white people then turn around and try to do with the same thing they've done to us historically?
The guarantee at this point is because now we are coming together as one. All of this time since the 1960s, we've dropped the ball. As I stated, the dream has been turning into a nightmare. Everybody is becoming a consumer. We have been consumer since the 1960s, but now the whole entire system is turning upside down for them as well. Now they are realizing, hey, we've been discriminated against too. It's amazing to see. I tell you guys, just some of it is just amazing. But there are those guarantees that, hey, wait a minute, we have been discriminated against, and so have they. But the laws, we have not been able to push for the laws to make them effective for IT. Once we do that on behalf of the nation, then we will have that guarantee that we need to push for Black America. But we have to be ready. Like Mr. Mike said, you have to have your certifications. You have to be on top of it with your whatever field you want to go into in IT, because it's affecting everybody. So we have to be ready. They're not just going to throw a job at you. It doesn't work that way.
Look, Albert Einstein famously said, you cannot solve a problem using the same level of intelligence that created it. So it would not be in the interest of white folks to repeat the same thing that led to where we're at now.
That is correct.
Yeah,
I just had to ask. I know that's okay.
Cyberline has his hand up. Go ahead, Cyberline.
Thanks again, Mike.
Yes, sir.
So I think it's more so of a statement and slight of a question. I think Vivian, when you speak about the coming together part, I think that's excellent. I'll be a bit of a devil's advocate here on the other side, because I think what Mike is talking about, if I could expand on that just a little bit, and it's just a suggestion, not telling Mike what he needs to do, but I think along with that comes a particular fitness of performance. And what I mean by that is that Mike said a 10-point docket. I think at some point in the future, because like you said, you have to have what do I say about Black America from the technocratic perspective. From the technocratic perspective, and I think in the beginning phases in that presentation, the conversation that has to go along of things to cover, there has to be some consideration for individuals at certain levels. Mike, if I can, representative of the technological spectrum, security, infrastructure, application development, so forth. I think it would be very wise to have some people very strong in their particular field of area who can add to the conversation, so that in the end, once this thing kind of turns over, you're presenting the government, you're presenting the private sector and these businesses with a very sound reasoning as to why they need to consider the alternative in addition to why they need to act on these rules that are obviously in place, for, allowing or initiating certain contracts that include Black minority individuals in IT. So that's just the statement I wanted to kind of throw out there, in terms of structure and architectural. My last question is, from your standpoint again, what has been the posture or the sentiment of government or of these big players when it comes to being willing to take the route of recourse for all of this? Do they have a sentiment? Is there a positive posture on this, or is this something that's going to require some arm bending and some arm twisting?
Well, right now, how can I say, President Trump himself has known about the Disney situation since mid-2016. So he is aware of it. He's aware he ran on it in order to get into the office. As a matter of fact, a lot of us middle class put him into office to end the H-1B system and the way it's set up right now, to reform it. The government was not quite aware until I brought it up to them that, excuse me, we are hiring federal contract workers who are not U.S. citizens, and we are spending the federal taxpayer dollar on companies that are hiring under federal contracts people who are non-U.S. citizens. So they were not aware of how heavy it was until I brought it up to them. And my experience was at one agency that had nothing but H-1B workers there. I almost fell out dealing with them. And the security, I gave the risk assessment and the vulnerability assessment to the Trump administration, which was number one on the list, was our SSL certificates are being taken to another country, because when that one person leaves on vacation for 2 weeks, they're taking it with them, okay, which is leaving us vulnerable. That's called a vulnerability, okay, problem. It's a problem, and it's happening throughout the United States. So to answer your question there, they were not fully aware of all of the vulnerabilities and the risks associated with what they have been doing under the U.S. government disguise, okay, because they're not a whole bunch of IT people. I got lucky because Ken Cuccinelli, the Assistant Deputy Secretary of DHS, he's currently the Acting Director of USCIS. He's also an IP lawyer. So when I began to speak, a lot of things that I was saying, he almost fell out of the chair because they are unaware and they don't want to deal with IT as a national security issue. So it is a problem, and we're trying to get them up to speed on how it is detrimental to the United States and our national security. Nuclear regulatory places, our nuclear power plants. It would be amazing, if you guys found out exactly how bad you're needed there instead of a H-1B worker. So yes, they are somewhat aware, but you still have entities within the United States government that don't want any changes. They love it the way it is. It's been working for them for the last 15 years. Why bother it? So that's what we're up against.
To add to your point, Vivian, you also see that the HBCUs are taking on non-Black people as well and making them the valedictorians. You have white males walking around with crowns on their heads.
Yeah, and those schools, a lot of the schools are going to be not even Black in the next 20 years because they're grabbing all these other students. I mean, it's
because they're historically Black.
Boy, again, I only hear Black. What did you say, Complex?
I said that's because
I said, that's because they're historically Black, to play on words.
Yeah,
I know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're gonna assume to be PWI that they're going, and that's the way the IT.
That's what I'm saying, historically.
Yeah, you know,
It would be an HBCU in every sense of the word.
Whew. And
But
you all are now.
But Vivian, I had a question. So they're not
Sure.
using hardware security modules for certificates? I'm totally shocked at that. And they have
Well, keep in mind that a lot of the federal government has been trying to, repeat that heavily, trying to turn over to the cloud. Okay? So they have a lot of instances where, yes, it is hardware on the ground, but if you're taking the information that's needed, if there was a disaster, for disaster recovery planning, if that disaster did happen and that person's gone out of the United States, either way, we're screwed. And so that's what's been happening. That's basically what's been happening. You know, our information has been turned over to other foreign governments without any regard for national security, whether it be somebody that's needed that's Black or white. So they are really, we're in trouble right now. You have the Department of Energy. Somebody asked about ActionNet. I'm fully aware of ActionNet. Yes, I've gone to bat with them a couple of times about how it's not their decision to make decisions on behalf of the CIO of the Department of Energy. No, you don't make those kind of decisions. It's up to that guy that we, the American people, where our federal taxpayer dollars are paying to make the decision, not you, on some things. So, yes, we have a lot of ICCs out there that are doing heavy business with the federal government vis-a-vis third-party vendor subprime contracts is what they call them. On behalf of these larger organizations that have gotten around hiring Black people. Now they're also getting around hiring white people, and it is a mess out there. And you know, I'm not trying to be racist. The only thing I'm saying is protect my national origin. Just like other countries have national origin, well, we need national origin too as U.S. citizens. So you can be of any race, color, creed, culture, whatever, but you must have an allegiance to the U.S. Yeah. U.S. And that's the problem. And I have a problem with my Black brothers and sisters in the hood suffering because they got to pay federal taxpayer dollars out of their checks. And you over here giving it to this H-1B worker driving this Mercedes-Benz SUV rolling in a nice crib, okay? Yeah. Nice. I have a problem with that. Yep. And that's why I'm speaking up.
Yeah, definitely.
I would rather have one of you on the phone living next door to me. I mean, I get paid very well with what I do. Don't get me wrong, okay? I'm loving it, okay? But I'm being squozed out too as an IT executive. I'm being kicked out. Miss Dawn Casey, she was the vice president of J.P. Morgan Chase. They kicked her butt out too. I have another young lady. I can't even remember what she was in IT, but she's a truck driver now. So, I mean, don't think it can't happen to you.
Yeah. We've been talking about this extensively. So, you know, you have Vivian on the panel, and she's confirming everything that we've been saying for the last few years, Complex, myself, and the rest of the Black Brain Trust, that this is a very critical point for Black people in America. Very critical.
Yes, it is. Very critical.
You have between now and 2030 to get this right, or else you're going to get left behind.
Yes. And what basically I've been telling a lot of Black brothers and sisters is it's time to stop being the consumer. We have been the consumer since Martin Luther King Jr., God rest his soul, was assassinated. We have been consumers ever since. Consuming.
Consumer class.
Okay? And it's time to stop being the consumer and get up off of our tails and do something about this, or our kids and grandkids are going to be in trouble.
Hey, Vivian, I just came back from the continent. I was there in February, and I was there in a couple weeks ago. And the rate that they're moving at is something is beyond my words that I can really express. They're moving at a very fast pace from a technological standpoint. The things that they're doing, the startups that they're creating, these are Black people doing all these things, you know.
Yes.
And over here, we're not even having these sort of conversations. It's very interesting how people are putting their heads in the sand over here, but over there, they're about that life over there.
Yes, and my problem is all of these empowerment zones, quote unquote, that they're talking about, all of these Black businesses here in the United States. Why can't you or you or you on the phone be the company that services that Black company for IT? All of them need accounting software. You understand what I'm saying? Why must you be the worker bee? How come you can't be the queen or king bee, okay, and go in and service them, those other king and queen bees?
We talked about that.
Why?
Yeah, I agree with you. And then we talked about that earlier this week. Black people ready for the fourth industrial revolution and or fourth industrialization. And my suggestion has been that we have these opportunity zones set up in these public library spaces that we turn into tech incubators so that we can facilitate and cultivate our own startups that can then be contracted to the local, state, and federal government, and that we can get those contracts on the table and that we can get all those billions of dollars that's out there and we can solve our own problems.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. But we don't know that we are all there. All of these beautiful minds on the phone with me today, we don't know that we are all there because I'll be the first one to admit it. I have shut up for about 15 years. Okay, I'll be honest. I've taken my money and ran. But there's another generation coming behind us that we can't do that anymore because they're turning them into service workers. Go work at 7-Eleven or go work at Amazon, you know, in the warehouse. You know, forget your brain. Just go be a consumer and consume and service. That's it. But the thing is, it's also happening to the white kids. And that's where we can take advantage.
Yep.
Because we can work with them to plug the holes in the boat. Because the boat is sinking, y'all. Mm-hmm. Whether you like it or not, it's sinking.
Absolutely.
It's sinking all around you.
Absolutely.
And another thing, I want to apologize for sucking up all of you beautiful men's time. I just wanted to just come in and let you know that, well, we're here, and this is where we're at today. And thank all of you for taking the time to listen to what we all have to say as a race, because we are here and we need to stand up.
No. Thank you for actually participating. We had no idea that you were even listening or even in the chat for that matter. I did see the name, but I didn't put any emphasis behind it that you were Ms. Ibrahim herself. So you are here in the flesh. Thank you for participating with us. And I definitely will be connecting with you on LinkedIn for some future opportunities on some of this whole entire agenda. So.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank
you. Anybody
all.
Have any other questions? Anybody?
We're gonna close out. It's 3 hours now. So.
Okay.
But thank you though. We'll be going live again probably in the next few days. So we'll hit that notification bell so you get all the updates from the Black Brain Trust.
Sure, no problem, no problem. It certainly has been a pleasure speaking to all of you and answering all of your questions. And, we can do this. We're going to have to do it for our kids. We've got to do it.
Absolutely. Have a good weekend, Ms. Vivian.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye to all of you.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Vivian.
Bye.
All right. Please hit the like button if you're not already done so. Share that video if possible. Also, if you are looking to get into IT for the first time and are looking for some IT mentorship, we do offer IT mentorship here. There'll be an email in the chat or when the live stream ends, make sure you leave your credentials at the end of the live stream saying that you want some IT mentorship. One of us will get back to you. If you're trying to go from one IT role to another, there will be some IT coaching available from us. If you're in the New York area, on the tri-state area, and you're looking for some IT contracts, and the Goal 11 does have recs on the table. If you have a resume or a cover letter that you want some advice on, we do offer advice in those areas. Salary and wage negotiations as well. To the rest of the participants on the panel, thank you for contributing as well as Ms. Vivian Ibrahim. And to everyone else, shalom.